Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Rebecca Stone, and I need to tell you something that happened to me 5 years ago. Something that's still happening to me every single day. I'm a park ranger in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, and I've been living in these woods since my sister Rachel died. This morning, like every morning, I woke up and made breakfast, but when I put the food in my mouth, it tasted like dirt. Cold, wet dirt like the kind you find in graveyards. I tried to ignore it and looked out my window at the mountains. The autumn leaves were so bright and colorful today. Red, orange, yellow, they covered the mountains like a blanket. But when I looked closer, I could swear the leaves spelled out letters. R-A-C-H-E-L. Rachel's name, written across the entire mountainside. I blinked hard and looked again, but the letters were still there. I've been seeing things like this a lot lately. Strange things that probably aren't real. The doctor says it's because I'm still sad about Rachel, but I know what I see. The fog was thick this morning, rolling through the trees like smoke. For a moment it looked like two people hugging each other, twins maybe, sisters. Then the fog changed, and suddenly it looked like faces screaming. I had to close my eyes and count to 10 before it went back to normal fog. I got dressed and looked in the mirror to brush my hair. That's when I saw it. There were two people in the mirror, me and a shadow standing right behind me. The shadow looked exactly like Rachel, same long hair, same smile, but when I turned around, nobody was there. My dog Scout was waiting by the door, wagging his tail. He's been with me for 3 years now, ever since I started working as a search and rescue ranger. He's a good dog, always knows where to find lost hikers. Sometimes I think he's too smart, like he knows things a dog shouldn't know. I grabbed Rachel's old hiking boots from by the door. I've been wearing them every day since she died. They used to be too big for me, but now they fit perfectly. Sometimes I wonder if my feet have gotten bigger or if the boots have gotten smaller. But that's silly, right? Boots don't change size. Outside, the forest felt different today. The birds were singing, but their songs sounded like laughter, like Rachel's laughter. Light, happy, the way she used to laugh when we were kids and played hide and seek in these same woods. I started walking down the trail and Scout ran ahead like always. But when I looked down at my footprints in the mud, I saw something weird. There were 2 sets of prints, mine from my boots and another set, bare feet, small and delicate, the same size as Rachel's feet. My watch started acting strange, too. Usually it just shows the time, 8:30 in the morning. But today, it was showing 2 different times at once. 8:30 a.m. and 3:47 a.m. That second time made my stomach feel sick. 3:47 a.m. was when Rachel died. I remember because I was holding her hand. In the hospital, when the machines stopped beeping, the air felt hot and wavy, like when you look at a road on a really hot day. But it wasn't hot today. It was cool and crisp, perfect autumn weather. Through the wavy air, I could see things that weren't really there. I saw Rachel and me hiking together, both of us laughing and alive. I saw us as little girls, playing in these woods with our parents. I saw a world where Rachel never fell off that cliff. But those were just dreams, just my imagination playing tricks on me. The wind picked up and blew through the leaves. It sounded like whispering, like secrets being shared between 2 people who love each other very much. I used to share secrets with Rachel all the time. Twin secrets that nobody else could understand. Even the sunlight felt wrong today. It was bright and golden, but when it touched my skin, it felt cold. Cold, like the air in the morgue where I had to identify Rachel's body 5 years ago. I kept walking deeper into the forest, following the trail I knew by heart. These mountains were my home and Rachel's home too. We grew up here, learned to hike here, dreamed about our future here. Now it's just me and the memories and the strange things I keep seeing that probably aren't real. But as I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was walking beside me, someone I couldn't see, but who was definitely there. Someone who knew these trails just as well as I did. Someone who used to be my other half. I've been working as a search and rescue ranger for 5 years now. Ever since Rachel died, actually. People always ask me why I chose this job. And I tell them it's because I want to help people. But that's not the whole truth. The real truth is that I can't let go of the idea that maybe somehow Rachel is still out there, lost in these woods, waiting for me to find her. I know it sounds crazy. I saw her body. I went to her funeral, but sometimes late at night I hear her voice calling my name from somewhere deep in the forest. I'm good at my job though, really good. I've found more lost hikers than any other ranger in the park. Scout and I, we have a special gift for tracking people down. We can find anyone, anywhere in these mountains. It's like I can smell fear and desperation from miles away. But lately, something's been bothering me. When I find these lost people, they always look at me strangely, like they're scared of me instead of grateful. Last week, I found a family of 4 who'd been missing for 2 days. When I walked into their camp, the little girl started crying and pointing at me. She kept saying, "There's 2 of them, Mommy, there's 2 of them." I looked behind me, but it was just me and Scout. Just like always. The weird thing is, I've been having dreams. Dreams where I'm not alone in these woods. Dreams where Rachel is with me and we're hunting together. Not hunting animals, hunting people. In the dreams, we can smell their fear from miles away. We can hear their heartbeats. We know exactly where they are at all times. When I wake up from these dreams, my mouth tastes like copper, like blood. I've also been getting sick a lot lately. Strange sicknesses that don't make sense. Last month, I suddenly couldn't eat strawberries. They made me throw up, but I've always loved strawberries. Then I remembered Rachel was allergic to strawberries. She couldn't eat them without getting sick. My voice has been changing too. Sometimes when I talk, I sound like Rachel. Same tone, same laugh, same way of saying certain words. My neighbors have noticed. Mrs. Patterson from down the road told me I sounded just like my sister when I said goodbye to her last week. She got this strange look on her face, like she'd seen a ghost. Maybe she had. I've been wearing Rachel's clothes lately, not on purpose. I just find myself putting them on without thinking about it. Her favorite sweater, her old jeans, her hiking socks. They all fit me perfectly now, even though Rachel was smaller than me. When I look in the mirror wearing her clothes, sometimes I can't tell which one of us I'm looking at. The strangest thing is my feet. Rachel's hiking boots have been getting tighter and tighter over the years. At first, I thought it was just because I was wearing them so much, but yesterday I tried to take them off and couldn't. The leather feels soft and warm against my skin, almost like it's part of me now. When I finally got them off, my feet looked different, smaller, more delicate, like Rachel's feet. I've been having headaches too, bad ones that feel like someone else's memories trying to push into my brain. I remember things that never happened to me. I remember falling off a cliff. I remember the feeling of rocks hitting my body. I remember the taste of blood in my mouth as I died. But I'm not dead. I'm here, walking through these woods, doing my job, helping people, aren't I? Scout has been acting strange lately too. He's gotten bigger over the past few years, and sometimes he walks on his back legs like a person. His face looks different, too, more human somehow. Sometimes when he looks at me, I swear I can see Rachel's eyes staring back at me. Last week, I found a man who'd been lost for 3 days. He was dehydrated and scared, but alive. When I gave him water, he looked at me and said, "Thank you, Rachel." I corrected him, told him my name was Rebecca, but he insisted. He said I looked exactly like someone named Rachel who'd been helping him find his way out of the woods. But I was the only one who'd been looking for him, me and Scout, nobody else. The truth is, I don't remember much about the last 5 years. They all blur together like one long day. I wake up, I eat breakfast that tastes like dirt. I look for lost people, I find them, I bring them home. Every day is exactly the same, except for the dreams where Rachel and I are together, and we're not trying to help people. We're trying to catch them. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the one who's lost, if I'm the one who needs to be found. But every time I think about leaving these woods, about starting over somewhere else, I hear Rachel's voice calling my name. She needs me. She's waiting for me. And I could never leave her alone in these dark, deep woods, even if it means I might never find my way out either. This morning was different. I got a call on my radio around sunrise. A family had gone missing, the Johnsons, Mom, Dad, and 2 kids. They'd been camping near Miller's Creek for 3 days and never came back home. I grabbed my gear and headed out with Scout. The walk to their campsite took about an hour through thick woods. When we got there, I found something that made my stomach turn cold. Their camp was still set up. Tent, sleeping bags, camp chairs around a dead fire, food still sitting on the picnic table, but no people anywhere. It looked like they just vanished into thin air, but that wasn't the weird part. The weird part was the mirrors. Mrs. Johnson had brought a small mirror to do her makeup. It was sitting on the picnic table, reflecting the morning sun. When I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw Rachel. She was smiling at me, waving like she used to when we were kids. I picked up the mirror and turned it around, then looked again. Still Rachel. I could see her mouth moving like she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear any words. There was also a pot of water by the fire. The water was still and clear, like a black mirror. When I looked down into it, Rachel's face looked back up at me. Not my face, hers. She looked exactly like she did the day she died. Young and happy and alive. Scout started whining and walking in circles. He kept looking at the ground, then looking at me, then looking at the ground again. I followed his eyes and saw footprints in the soft dirt around the campsite. Some of the footprints belonged to the Johnson family. I could see the different sizes. Big boots for the dad, smaller shoes for the mom, tiny sneakers for the kids. But there were other prints too, bare footprints that looked exactly like the ones I'd been seeing on my trails for months. Rachel's footprints. I followed the trail deeper into the woods. The bare prints walked alongside the family's shoes for about half a mile. Then something strange happened. The family's footprints just stopped, like they'd been walking and then suddenly disappeared. But Rachel's prints kept going. I kept following them, and Scout kept whining. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. The trees seemed to bend toward each other overhead, blocking out most of the sunlight. The air smelled sweet and sick, like flowers left too long in water. Then I heard voices. "Help us," someone called from up ahead. "Please, we're lost." It sounded like Mrs. Johnson. I started running toward the voice, crashing through branches and jumping over fallen logs. Scout ran behind me, barking like he was scared. "We're here," I called back. "I'm coming." But as I got closer, something felt wrong. The voice was coming from the right direction, but it sounded like it was coming from inside my own head, like I was hearing it through my ears and my brain at the same time. I stopped running and put my hand over my mouth. "Help us!" The voice called again. My lips were moving. The voice was coming from my throat, but it wasn't my voice. It was Mrs. Johnson's voice coming out of my mouth. I tried to speak in my own voice. "Hello?" I said, but what came out sounded like Rachel, sweet and young and nothing like me. Scout had stopped barking. When I looked down at him, he was standing on his back legs like a person, his front paws hung down like arms, and his face looked different, more human. His eyes were Rachel's eyes, brown and warm and full of love. "Rebecca," he said in Rachel's voice. You found them. Dogs can't talk. I knew that. But Scout was talking, and he sounded exactly like my sister. I looked around and realized we were standing in a place I knew very well. It was the bottom of Miller's Cliff, the same cliff where Rachel had fallen 5 years ago. The trees were arranged in exactly the same pattern as they were that day. The rocks were in the same places. Even the light coming through the leaves was the same. But that was impossible. Miller's Cliff was 10 miles away from the Johnsons' campsite. We couldn't have walked that far in just an hour. I knelt down and touched the ground. My hand came away covered in something dark and wet. At first I thought it was mud, but when I smelled it, I knew what it really was. It was the same smell as the morgue, where I'd identified Rachel's body, sweet and sick and cold. The trees around me started moving even though there was no wind. They twisted and bent until they formed the shape of 2 people hugging each other, 2 sisters holding each other tight. On the ground, fallen leaves began moving by themselves. They swirled and danced until they spelled out words, "Let me go, and you're killing us both." The handwriting was Rachel's. I knew it as well as my own. I looked down at my shadow on the ground. It was moving wrong. While I stood still, my shadow reached out toward the trees. It touched things I wasn't touching. It moved like there was someone else controlling it. Someone who looked exactly like me, but wasn't me. "Rebecca," Scout said again, still standing like a person. "It's time to stop pretending." I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But my feet wouldn't move. Rachel's hiking boots felt like they were stuck to the ground, or maybe stuck to my feet. I couldn't tell where the boots ended and my skin began anymore. Something was very wrong. Something had been wrong for a long time, and I was starting to think that maybe I was the problem. That's when I saw her. Rachel stepped out from between the trees like she'd been waiting there all along. She looked exactly like she did 5 years ago. Same long brown hair, same bright smile, same hiking clothes she was wearing the day she died. But something was wrong with her face. It kept changing. 1 second she looked like my beautiful sister. The next second her skin was gray and her eyes were empty. Then she'd flicker back to normal, like someone changing the channel on a TV. "Hello, Rebecca," she said, and her voice sounded like wind blowing through dead leaves. "I've been waiting for you." I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just stood there staring at her. "You look confused," Rachel said, walking closer. "Don't you remember, we've been doing this together for years now, you and me hunting in these woods." "Hunting?" I finally managed to say. She smiled, and when she did, I saw that her teeth were too sharp, too white, like an animal's teeth. "The Johnson family was delicious," she said. "Especially the children. Children taste like hope and birthday cake." My stomach felt sick. "What are you talking about?" "You brought them to me, Rebecca, just like you've brought me everyone else. The hikers, the campers, the lost families. You find them, and then you call to me, and I feed." "That's not true," I said. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. Rachel laughed, and the sound made birds fly away from the trees around us. "Look at yourself, sister, really look." I looked down at my hands. They were covered in dirt and something dark that might have been blood. My fingernails were long and sharp, like I'd been digging with them. "You stopped being just Rebecca a long time ago," Rachel said. "We've been sharing the same body, sharing the same thoughts. You rescue people during the day, and I hunt them at night. We're a team." I shook my head. "No, I help people. I save them." "Do you?" Rachel asked. "When was the last time you brought someone home? When was the last time a family thanked you for finding their lost loved one?" I tried to remember, but my mind felt foggy. Had I brought people home? I remembered finding them, but after that, nothing. "You bring them to me," Rachel continued, "deep in the woods where no one can hear them scream, and then I eat their fear. I eat their love for each other. I eat their memories of being happy. Scout, who wasn't really Scout anymore, walked over to Rachel and rubbed against her legs like a cat. She petted his head, and his face looked more human than ever. "This is Scout," Rachel said. "Or at least, this is what's left of the first person you brought me, a little boy who got lost 5 years ago. I liked him so much that I kept a piece of him to help us hunt. I felt like I was going to throw up." "You're lying!" Rachel's face changed again. This time she looked like Mrs. Johnson, then like Mr. Johnson, then like their 2 little kids. She was wearing all their faces at once, like a deck of cards being shuffled. "I wear them all," she said in Mrs. Johnson's voice. "Everyone you've fed me. They're all part of me now. And they're all part of you too." I looked at my reflection, in a puddle of water near my feet. But it wasn't my face looking back. It was Rachel's face, and behind her I could see dozens of other faces, all the people I thought I'd rescued over the years. They were all trapped inside me, inside us. "We're not human anymore, Rebecca," Rachel said, her voice soft and loving like when we were children. "We haven't been human for a long time. We're something else now, something that feeds on families and love and hope." "But I feel human," I whispered. "Do you?" she asked. "When did you last eat real food? When did you last sleep? When did you last feel warm?" I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember anything except walking through these woods day after day looking for lost people. "The thing is," Rachel said, "I'm getting lonely. It's been just me doing the hunting while you do the finding. I want us to be together all the time. I want us to hunt together like real sisters should." She held out her hand to me. "Come with me, Rebecca. Let me show you what we really are." I looked at her hand. Her fingers were long and white, with black nails that looked like claws, but she was smiling at me with so much love. The same way she used to smile when we were little, and she wanted me to follow her on some adventure. "We can be together forever," she said, "just like we always wanted. No more pretending to be a helpful park ranger. No more confusion about who you are. We'll hunt together and feed together and never be apart again." Part of me wanted to take her hand. Part of me had missed her so much that the idea of being with her forever sounded like heaven. But another part of me, a small, quiet part, remembered what it felt like to actually help people. To see grateful families hugging their lost children. To feel proud of doing something good. That part of me was getting smaller every day, but it was still there. "What if I say no?" I asked. Rachel's smile faded. For a moment she looked sad. Then she looked angry. Then she looked hungry. "You can't say no, Rebecca," she said, "because you're already mine. You've been mine since the day I died. You just haven't admitted it yet." The forest around us started to change. The trees grew taller and darker. The ground became soft and squishy under my feet. The air smelled like meat that had been left out in the sun too long. "This is our real home," Rachel said. "This is where we've always belonged, in the hungry darkness between life and death." I closed my eyes and tried to remember what it felt like to be alive. Really alive. But all I could remember was the taste of dirt and the smell of the morgue and the feeling of Rachel's hiking boots growing into my feet. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been dead for years and just didn't know it. Maybe it was time to stop pretending and accept what I really was. But then I remembered something, a memory that felt real, not like the foggy dreams I'd been living in. I remembered the day Rachel died, really died. We were hiking together, just like we always did. She slipped on some wet rocks near the cliff edge. I tried to catch her, but I couldn't reach her in time. She fell, and I watched her fall, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. After that, I was so sad I wanted to die, too. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I just sat in these woods day after day, calling her name and waiting for her to come back. But she never came back, because dead people don't come back. "You're not Rachel," I said quietly. The thing wearing my sister's face tilted its head. What? You're not my sister. Rachel is gone. She's been gone for 5 years. Its smile faded. Rebecca, don't be silly. Of course I'm Rachel. I'm your twin sister. No, I said, and my voice got stronger. My sister was kind. She helped people. She would never hurt children. She would never eat people. The thing's face started changing faster now, flipping between Rachel and all the other faces it had stolen. But we've been together all this time. We've been hunting together. I've been hunting, I said, but I've been hunting alone. And I've been bringing people to you because I'm sick, because I couldn't let my sister go. The truth hit me like cold water. I had been finding people, but I hadn't been saving them. I'd been sleepwalking through 5 years of my life, so lost in grief that I'd become something terrible. I've been feeding you, I whispered. All those families, all those children. I brought them to you because some part of me thought if I fed you enough, you'd really come back. The thing that wasn't Rachel snarled, and its face became something horrible, not human at all. Just teeth and hunger and endless emptiness. You can't leave me, it screamed. I need you. Without you, I'll starve. Good, I said. I started walking away, but my feet wouldn't move right. Rachel's hiking boots had grown into my skin over the years. They were part of me now. When I tried to take a step, roots came out of the soles and dug into the ground. You can't leave, the thing said, and now it sounded pleased. We're connected forever, you and me and all the people we've eaten. We're all one big, happy family. I looked down at Scout, who was still standing on his back legs like a person. His eyes were scared and sad, and I realized he really had been a little boy once. A little boy who got lost and never made it home to his parents. I'm sorry, I told him. I'm so sorry. He nodded like he understood. I closed my eyes and thought about Rachel. The real Rachel. Not this hungry thing, but my sister who used to braid my hair and share her candy with me and help me with my homework. My sister who loved these mountains but loved people more. Rachel would want me to stop this, I said out loud. The thing laughed. But you can't stop it. Even if you try to leave, you'll just keep sleepwalking back here. You'll keep bringing me food. You're mine forever. Maybe, I said. But I can choose to remember. I opened my eyes and looked at the monster wearing my sister's face. I choose to remember that you're not Rachel. I choose to remember all the people I hurt. I choose to feel bad about it instead of pretending. It never happened. The thing's smile disappeared. That will just make you sad. Good. I should be sad. I did terrible things. The forest around us started to change back to normal. The trees became regular trees. The ground became regular ground. Even Scout started looking more like a dog and less like a little boy. If you remember everything, you'll go crazy, the thing warned. Maybe, but at least I'll be me again. The real me. Not some sleepwalking ghost who can't tell the difference between helping and hurting. I reached down and grabbed Rachel's hiking boots. They hurt when I pulled them because they'd grown into my feet, but I pulled anyway, and slowly they came off. My feet were bloody and raw underneath, but they were my feet again. The thing that wasn't Rachel started to fade away, like smoke in the wind. You'll be all alone, it whispered. I know, I said, but being alone is better than being a monster. It disappeared completely, and suddenly the woods were quiet. Really quiet. No whispers, no strange sounds, no feeling like someone was watching me. Scout walked over to me on 4 legs, like a normal dog. He looked up at me with his own eyes now, not Rachel's eyes. Then he licked my hand once and ran away into the trees. Going home, maybe, or maybe just being free. I sat down on a fallen log and looked at my bloody feet. I had a long walk ahead of me. Back to town, back to real life, back to facing what I'd done. I would have to tell people about the missing families. I would have to confess that I'd been lying for years about finding them safe. I would probably go to jail. I would definitely lose my job. But for the first time in 5 years, I felt like myself again. Rebecca Stone. Sad, guilty, alone Rebecca Stone. But at least I was real. I stood up and started walking. Each step hurt, but the pain felt good. It felt like being alive. As I walked, I thought I heard something behind me in the trees. Footsteps maybe, or maybe just the wind. I didn't turn around to look. I kept walking toward home, toward the truth, toward whatever came next. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm trying to sleep, I still hear Rachel's voice calling my name from somewhere deep in the forest. And sometimes I catch myself putting on my shoes and walking toward the door. Because even though I know the truth now, part of me will always be lost in those woods. Part of me will always be looking for my sister, and part of me is afraid that someday I might find her again. My name is Michael Hartley, and I wish I had never set foot in that forest. I'm 42 years old now, but sometimes I still feel like that scared 20-year-old kid in Vietnam. Back then, I was a medic. My job was to save lives, to patch up wounded soldiers and get them home to their families. But war doesn't care about your good intentions. War just takes and takes until there's nothing left of you but guilt. That's why I came to Olympic National Forest in Washington. People said the quiet would help. My doctor said being in nature might calm my mind. My wife said maybe the fresh air would help me sleep without the nightmares. She was wrong about a lot of things, but she was trying to help. We all were. I brought my dog Frodo with me. He's a golden retriever, 8 years old, and the only living thing that doesn't look at me like I'm broken. Dogs don't judge you for the mistakes you made 20 years ago. They just love you anyway. The drive up to the forest was normal enough. Trees everywhere, green and thick like a wall. The kind of green you only see in the Pacific Northwest, where everything grows so fast and so wild that it seems alive in a way that makes you nervous. I parked my truck at the trailhead and grabbed my backpack. Inside was everything I needed for 3 days alone in the woods. Food, water, sleeping bag, and my old military medical kit. I never go anywhere without that kit. Old habits, I guess. Frodo jumped out of the truck and started sniffing around like dogs do. His tail was wagging, and he seemed happy to be out in all that space. I looked at the trail sign. It said, Memorial Grove Trail, 3.2 miles. Someone had carved words underneath in rough letters, Remember the Fallen. I figured it was just some park ranger trying to be respectful. The first mile of hiking felt good. My legs remembered how to move through rough ground, and my lungs remembered how to breathe clean air instead of cigarette smoke and city smog. Frodo ran ahead, then back to me, then ahead again. Normal dog stuff. The trees were huge. Some of them must have been hundreds of years old. Their trunks were so wide that 3 people holding hands couldn't reach around them. But something was wrong with the shapes. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. You know how sometimes you look at clouds and they look like faces or animals? It was like that, except these trees looked like something else, something that made my chest tight. They looked like headstones. Not exactly, but close enough to make me stop walking. These massive Sitka spruces were growing in rows, perfectly straight rows, just like the graves at Arlington Cemetery. Each tree stood the same distance apart. Each one was roughly the same height, and at the base of each tree, the roots had grown up out of the ground in a way that looked almost like crosses. Come on, Michael, I said out loud. You're seeing things that aren't there. But Frodo had stopped running ahead. He was standing very still, looking at the trees with his head tilted to one side. His tail wasn't wagging anymore. I kept walking, but the feeling got stronger. The forest was too quiet. No birds singing, no bugs buzzing, no wind in the branches. Just the sound of my boots on the dirt trail and Frodo's paws beside me. Even our breathing seemed too loud. The mist started rolling in around mile 2. That's normal for this part of Washington. The weather changes fast and fog comes and goes without warning. But this mist was different. It moved wrong. Instead of drifting with the wind, it seemed to be moving with purpose, flowing between. The trees like it knew where it was going. And then I saw the shapes in the mist. They were tall and thin, like people standing at attention. They flickered in and out of view, never quite solid enough to be real, but too clear to be just imagination. I counted at least 20 of them, all facing the same direction, all perfectly still. My heart started beating faster. The old panic was trying to climb up from my chest into my throat. I reached into my pocket and touched my medical kit. The aidut metal was cold against my fingers, but it helped me stay calm. Tools I understood, tools that had saved lives. "Just mist," I whispered. "Just your brain playing tricks." But Frodo was growling now, a low, deep sound I'd never heard from him before. His fur was standing up along his back, and he was staring into the mist like he could see something I couldn't. The trail curved to the right, and suddenly we were in a clearing. The trees formed a perfect circle around an open space about 50 feet across. In the center was a small stream that ran clear and cold over smooth rocks. It should have been peaceful. It should have been the kind of place where you'd want to set up camp and spend the night. Instead, it felt like walking into a church where something terrible had happened. The mist was thicker here, and the shapes in it were clearer. I could almost make out faces now, young faces mostly, boys who looked like they'd never had the chance to become men. They were wearing uniforms from different wars. I could see World War II helmets, Vietnam jungle fatigues, desert camouflage from more recent conflicts. All of them were looking at me. All of them were saluting. I dropped my backpack and fell to my knees beside the stream. The water was so clear I could see every pebble on the bottom, but when I looked closer, I saw something that made my blood freeze. The water wasn't clear. It was red. Not bright red like fresh blood, but dark red like old blood, like the blood that soaked into the dirt floors of field hospitals in Vietnam. Like the blood I could never wash off my hands, no matter how hard I scrubbed. Frodo came over and sat beside me. He wasn't growling anymore, but he was shaking. When I reached out to pet him, his fur felt strange under my fingers, coarser than usual, thicker, and when he looked up at me, his eyes seemed older somehow, sadder. "We shouldn't be here, boy," I said. But even as I said it, I knew it was too late. Something about this place was pulling at me, like it recognized me, like it had been waiting for me to come back. Come back? But I'd never been here before, had I? The mist swirled around us, and in the distance I heard something that made every hair on my body stand up. Helicopter blades, the deep, rhythmic whop, whop, whop of a medical evacuation chopper. But there were no helicopters here. This was deep wilderness, miles from any landing zone. The sound got louder, and suddenly I wasn't in Washington anymore. I was back in Vietnam, kneeling in red mud, trying to stop a 19-year-old soldier from bleeding to death while enemy mortars exploded around us. I could smell the antiseptic, feel the heat, taste the fear in my mouth. "Not again," I whispered. "Please, not again." But the helicopter was getting closer. The helicopter sound faded away, but the memory didn't. I stayed on my knees by the red stream for a long time, trying to get my breathing back to normal. Frodo pressed against my side, warm and solid. Real. That helped. "Okay," I said quietly. "We're okay. It's just stress. Just my mind playing tricks." But when I stood up and looked around the clearing again, I knew something was very wrong here. The bones were the first thing I noticed. They were scattered around the edges of the clearing, half hidden under fallen leaves and moss. At first glance, they looked random, like the remains of deer or elk that had died naturally. But when I walked closer, I saw they weren't animal bones at all. They were human, and they were arranged in patterns. Someone had placed them carefully, like they were building something. Leg bones stood upright in neat rows, like soldiers standing at attention. Rib bones were lined up side by side, forming what looked like fence posts. And skulls, God, there were so many skulls, sat on top of rocks and tree stumps, all facing the center of the clearing. All facing me. My hands started shaking. In Vietnam, I'd seen plenty of bodies. You don't work as a field medic without seeing death up close, but this was different. This was organized, planned, like someone was trying to build an army out of dead people. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. The screen showed 0 bars, like the forest was blocking everything from the outside world. Frodo whined and nudged my leg. When I looked down at him, he was staring at something behind me. I turned around slowly, afraid of what I might see. More bones. These ones were newer, cleaner. They formed a perfect circle around a flat rock that looked like a table. On the rock were tools, old medical tools. A bone saw with rust stains, surgical scissors with dried blood on the blades, needles and thread for stitching wounds. Some of the tools I recognized from my own kit. The same brands, the same designs. But these were old, much older than mine. Like they'd been used in wars I wasn't even born for. That's when I heard the voices. They started as static, like a radio trying to find a station. Then words began to come through, faint but clear enough to understand. "Medic! We need a medic over here!" The voice was young, desperate. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Got a man down, bleeding bad!" Another voice, different from the first. This one had an accent I couldn't place. Southern, maybe. "Where's the morphine? He's in too much pain." More voices joined in, dozens of them, all calling for help, all asking for medical assistance. But they weren't talking to each other. Each voice seemed to exist in its own space, its own time. I recognized some of the words. Vietnam slang, mixed with World War II phrases, mixed with things I'd never heard before. Like I was listening to every war America had ever fought, all happening at the same time. Frodo was backing away from the voices, his tail between his legs. He looked scared, but more than that, he looked aware. Like he understood something I didn't. "It's okay, boy," I said, but I didn't believe it myself. I tried to leave the clearing, but my feet wouldn't move. Something was holding me there, pulling me toward the center where the red stream flowed. The water was moving faster now, bubbling up from underground like a spring. But springs don't run red. I knelt down and touched the water with my finger. It felt warm, body temperature. When I brought my finger to my nose, the smell hit me like a punch to the gut. Blood. Fresh blood mixed with something else, something medical, antiseptic. The same smell that filled field hospitals and emergency rooms. The smell of people dying despite everything you tried to do to save them. The voices were getting louder. "Lost too much blood. Can't stop the bleeding. He's going into shock. Need plasma now. Time of death, 0347 hours. That last voice was different. Calm, professional. The voice of someone who'd given up. My medical bag was suddenly heavy on my shoulder. I opened it without thinking, and my blood went cold. The instruments inside weren't the ones I'd packed. These were older, different. A World War I field surgery kit. Tools for amputating limbs. Without anesthesia. Bandages that smelled like old blood. "What the hell?" I whispered. I dumped the bag out on the ground. More tools fell out than should have fit inside. Surgical instruments from different time periods, all stained with rust and worse things. At the bottom of the pile was a notebook, leather-bound and worn. I opened it to the first page. Written in careful handwriting were names, dates, and causes of death. Hundreds of them, all soldiers, all young men who'd died from wounds that should have been treatable, all patients I'd failed to save. But that was impossible. I'd never seen these names before. These deaths had happened in wars I'd never fought in places I'd never been. Hadn't I? The ground under my feet started to change. The dirt became mud, then sand, then jungle soil. The trees around the clearing flickered between different forests, pine woods, tropical jungle, desert scrubland. Like the clearing existed, in multiple places at once. Frodo was beside me, but when I looked at him, he seemed different, older. His golden fur had patches of grey I'd never noticed before. His eyes looked tired, like he'd seen too much. "Frodo," I said. He looked up at me and opened his mouth. When he spoke, it wasn't his voice that came out. "Private Johnson, serial number 547893321. Tell my mom I tried to be brave." The voice was young, scared, human. I stumbled backward, away from my dog, away from whatever my dog had become. "You're not real," I said. "None of this is real." But the voices kept coming, from Frodo and from the air around me, names and numbers and final messages, last words from soldiers who never got to say goodbye. The clearing was changing faster now. Sometimes it was a Vietnam jungle with helicopters overhead. Sometimes it was a World War II beach with explosions in the distance. Sometimes it was a Civil War battlefield with cannon smoke filling the air. But always, always, there were wounded soldiers calling for help. And always, I was the medic who couldn't save them. I ran toward the trail, but it wasn't there anymore. The path had disappeared, replaced by a dirt road that led deeper into the forest. A road that looked like it had been traveled by military vehicles. Behind me, Frodo called out in another voice, "Doc, please don't leave me here. Please don't. Let me die alone." I kept running, but I could hear him following. His paws on the ground sounded wrong now, too heavy, like boots instead of paws. The road curved ahead, and through the trees I could see lights, bright white lights, like the ones they use in operating rooms. Someone was waiting for me up there. Someone who wanted to show me something about all the patients I'd failed to save. All the men who died because I wasn't good enough, fast enough, smart enough to keep them alive. The lights got brighter as I got closer, and I could hear new sounds. The beep of heart monitors, the hiss of oxygen machines, the quiet conversation of medical staff working through the night. I was walking toward a hospital, but hospitals don't exist in the middle of wilderness forests. Do they? The lights came from a building that shouldn't have existed. It was a field hospital, like the ones I'd worked in during Vietnam. Canvas walls, metal poles, and that familiar green color that meant military medical. But this one was huge, stretching between the trees like it had grown there naturally. Power lines ran from tree to tree, feeding electricity to the bright surgical lights inside. I could hear the sounds clearly now. Heart monitors beeping in different rhythms, the steady hiss of breathing machines, quiet voices discussing medical procedures in calm, professional tones. It sounded exactly like the hospitals where I'd tried to save lives, where I'd failed to save lives. The road led right to the front entrance. There was no other way to go. The forest had closed in on both sides, thick with trees and undergrowth that looked impossible to walk through. Frodo caught up with me, but he wasn't my dog anymore. Not really. He walked on two legs now, like a person, but his head was still that of a golden retriever. When he looked at me, his eyes were human eyes, sad, tired human eyes. "You have to go in," he said in a voice I almost recognized. "They're waiting for you." "Who's waiting?" I asked. "Everyone you couldn't save." My chest felt tight. "That's not possible. This isn't real." But even as I said it, I knew I was lying to myself. Real or not, I had to see what was inside. I had to know why I was here, in this place that felt like every nightmare I'd ever had about the war. The entrance flap was held open by invisible hands. Inside, the hospital was exactly what I expected, and nothing like I'd ever seen. There were dozens of operating tables arranged in neat rows. Each table had a patient on it, covered by white sheets stained with blood. Some of the patients were missing arms or legs. Others had wounds in their chests or stomachs. All of them were young men in military uniforms from different wars, and all of them were still alive. Their eyes followed me as I walked between the tables. Some tried to speak, but blood came out instead of words. Others reached out with hands that ended in stumps where fingers should have been. "Please," one of them whispered. "It hurts so much. Why won't you help me?" I recognized his face. Private Martinez from my unit in Vietnam. He'd stepped on a landmine during a patrol. I'd worked on him for 3 hours, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to save his legs. But there had been too much damage. He died on the helicopter ride to the main hospital. Except here he was, 30 years later, still bleeding from the same wounds. "You died," I said. "I remember. You died." "No," Martinez said. "You let me die. There's a difference." I wanted to argue, but more faces were turning toward me. Faces I remembered from Vietnam, from the field hospital where I'd done my best to patch up broken soldiers and send them home. But my best hadn't been good enough. "Welcome back, Dr. Hartley." The voice came from the far end of the hospital. I looked up and saw a man in a white coat walking toward me. He was tall and thin, with grey hair and kind eyes behind wire frame. Glasses. He looked like every hospital doctor I'd ever worked with. Professional, caring, trustworthy, except for the blood on his coat. Fresh blood, still wet. "I'm not a doctor," I said. "I was just a medic." "Of course you were," the man said, smiling. "The best medic in your unit. The one everyone counted on to save lives, the one who carried the weight of every death on his shoulders." He stopped in front of me and held out his hand. "Dr. Death, at your service, though you can call me whatever makes you comfortable. I've been waiting a long time to meet you." I didn't shake his hand. "You're not real." "Reality is a flexible concept here," Dr. Death said. "What matters is that these men are in pain. They've been in pain for decades, waiting for someone skilled enough to finally heal them properly." He gestured to the patients around us. Now I could see there were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The hospital stretched back into the forest, much farther than should have been possible. Row after row of operating tables, each one occupied by a wounded soldier. "Every war America has fought," Dr. Death explained. "Every medic who ever lost a patient. Every doctor who made a mistake. All of that guilt, all of that failure, it has to go somewhere. And it all comes here to me. What are you?" "I'm what happens when medical guilt reaches critical mass," he said simply. "I'm the place where all the patients who died unnecessarily come to wait for proper treatment. And you, Michael Hartley, are going to provide that treatment." He led me deeper into the hospital. The patients we passed were from different time periods: Revolutionary War soldiers with musket wounds, Civil War boys with amputated limbs, World War soldiers with shrapnel in their chests, Vietnam veterans with burns and bullet holes. All of them looked at me with the same expression, hope mixed with accusation. "They trust you," Dr. Death said. "Even after you failed them, they still believe you can make it right. Isn't that beautiful?" We stopped at an operating table in the center of the hospital. This one was different from the others. It was made of bones, human bones fitted together like a jigsaw puzzle. The surgical lights above it were powered by something that glowed with a sickly green light. On the table was a patient I knew better than any of the others. It was me. Not exactly me, but close enough to make my hands shake. Same face, same build, same age I'd been in Vietnam. But this version of me was cut open from chest to stomach, organs, visible and pulsing. He was alive, conscious, and looking at me with my own eyes. "This is what guilt looks like when it becomes a living thing," Dr. Death said. "Every patient you lost carved a piece out of you. Eventually there wasn't enough left to keep you whole." The other me tried to speak, but blood bubbled up from his throat. "He's been waiting for you to come back and finish the operation," Dr. Death continued, "to finally save the one patient that matters most." "This is insane," I said. "I'm not dead. I'm not cut open. I'm standing right here." Are you? Dr. Death asked. When was the last time you felt truly alive? When was the last time you slept without nightmares? When was the last time you looked in a mirror without seeing the faces of the men you couldn't save? I wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Because he was right. I hadn't felt alive in years, not since Vietnam, not since I'd realized that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't save everyone. I can end the pain, Dr. Death said gently. Not just yours, but theirs too. All I need is your cooperation. He handed me a surgical knife. It was warm in my hand, like it had been waiting for me to pick it up. Operate on yourself, he said. Remove the guilt. Cut out the failure. Let me transplant it into something useful. Around us, the wounded soldiers were sitting up on their tables, watching, waiting. Their wounds were getting worse, bleeding more freely. The heart monitors were beeping faster, more urgently. They're dying again, Dr. Death said. Right now, while we're talking, you can save them this time. You can be the medic you always wanted to be. All you have to do is cut. I looked at the knife in my hand, at the other me on the bone table, at the hundreds of soldiers who were counting on me to finally get it right. Behind me, Frodo spoke in a voice that sounded like every patient I'd ever lost. Please, Doc, don't let us down again. The knife felt heavier with each heartbeat. Around me, the beeping of the heart monitors was getting slower. The soldiers were running out of time, just like they always did. I held the knife and tried to think clearly. Everything felt wrong, but the soldiers around me were real. Their pain was real. The blood was real. I don't understand, I said to Dr. Death. How does cutting myself save them? Guilt is like poison, he explained patiently. It spreads through your whole system, making everything sick. Remove the guilt, and you can finally heal properly. Remove your guilt, and you can heal them properly. It sounded logical. It sounded like something a real doctor might say. But something deep in my gut told me not to trust him. What happens to the guilt after I cut it out? Dr. Death smiled. It becomes useful. Instead of eating you alive, it becomes fuel for healing. Power for medicine, energy to save lives. He walked over to one of the patients, a young soldier from World War II with a chest wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Look at Private Williams here, Dr. Death said. He's been dying for 80 years. Every day, the same pain. Every night, the same fear. Wouldn't it be kinder to finally let him heal? The soldier looked at me with desperate eyes. Please, Doc, I just want to go home. I just want to see my mother again. My heart broke a little. I'd heard those same words from dozens of young men, boys who'd been sent to fight wars they didn't understand, who just wanted to survive long enough to hug their families again. How do I know this will work? I asked. Because I've done it before, Dr. Death said. Many times. Every medic eventually. Comes here, Michael. Every doctor who's lost too many patients, they all make the same choice in the end. He gestured toward the back of the hospital. For the first time, I noticed there were other figures moving around back there. People in medical coats, working on patients. They moved strangely, like they were sleepwalking. My staff, Dr. Death explained, former medics and doctors who decided to stay and help. They've cut out their guilt, and now they can work without the pain of failure. They save everyone now. One of the staff members walked closer, and I saw his face clearly. It was Dr. Rodriguez, a surgeon I'd known during my training. He'd been a good man, dedicated to helping people. But he looked different now. His eyes were empty, like no one was home behind them. Rodriguez, I said. He looked at me but didn't seem to recognize me. His face was blank, emotionless. When he spoke, his voice sounded flat and mechanical. Patient requires immediate surgery, he said. Blood loss critical. Beginning procedure. He walked past me like I wasn't there and started working on a soldier with a stomach wound. His hands moved efficiently, professionally, but there was no caring in his movements, no humanity. What's wrong with him? I asked. Nothing's wrong, Dr. Death said. He's perfect now. No emotion to cloud his judgment. No guilt to slow him down. He can work forever without getting tired or sad or frustrated. I watched Rodriguez work. He was saving the soldier's life, that was clear. But something about it felt horrible, like watching a machine pretend to be human. The guilt, I said slowly. When you remove it, you remove everything else too, don't you? Dr. Death's smile faded slightly. Emotion is inefficient. Caring. Too much makes doctors hesitate. Love makes medics take stupid risks. Remove those things and you become a perfect healer. But you're not human anymore. Humanity is overrated, Dr. Death said. These soldiers don't need you to feel sad about their pain. They need you to fix it. Behind me, Frodo made a sound that was half bark, half human cry. When I turned around, he was changing again. His dog body was flickering, like a TV with bed reception. Sometimes he looked like my golden retriever. Sometimes he looked like a man in military fatigues. Don't listen to him, Michael, Frodo said in his own voice. The voice I remembered from all our walks, all our quiet evenings at home. He's lying about everything. Dr. Death's face darkened. Quiet. Familiar. You've said enough. Familiar, I said. Frodo looked at me with eyes that were definitely human now, sad, tired, but still full of love. I'm not your dog, he said quietly. I never was. I'm Sergeant Tommy Chen. I was a medic in Korea. I came here 50 years ago and I made the same choice you're about to make. The world felt like it was spinning. That's impossible. Dr. Death turned me into your dog so I could lead you here, Frodo Tommy continued. He needed someone you would trust, someone who could get close to you without making you suspicious. But you've been with me for 8 years, I said. You were a puppy when I got you. Time works differently here, Tommy said. I've been your dog for 8 years in the real world, but I've been trapped here for 50 years in this place. Every day, watching you carry the same guilt that brought me here. Every day, knowing that eventually you'd end up in this forest. Dr. Death grabbed Tommy by the throat. Enough! But Tommy kept talking, even as Dr. Death's fingers tightened around his neck. The surgery doesn't save anyone, Michael. It just makes them part of his collection. Look closer at the patients. Really look. I looked around the hospital again, but this time I paid attention to details I'd missed before. The patients weren't just wounded. They were wrong. Their skin had a greenish tint, like plants. Some of them had bark growing along their arms. Others had leaves sprouting from their hair. They weren't being healed. They were being turned into something else. What are you doing to them? I demanded. Dr. Death let go of Tommy and straightened his coat. I'm making them useful. Human bodies are weak, temporary, but plants can live for hundreds of years. Trees can survive almost anything. He walked over to one of the patients, a Civil War soldier I'd thought was sleeping. Up close, I could see that his chest wound had been filled with moss. His fingers were turning into twigs. Roots were growing from his feet down into the floor. I'm not healing them, Dr. Death said calmly. I'm preserving them. They'll never die now. They'll never feel pain. They'll just exist forever as part of my garden. You're turning them into plants, I said, horrified. Into something better than human, he corrected. They're conscious, aware, but free from the burden of mortality. It's the perfect solution. I looked around the hospital with new eyes. All of the patients were in various stages of transformation. Some still looked mostly human. Others were more plant than person. They were all awake, all aware of what was happening to them, but unable to move or speak. Their eyes begged for help. This is what you want me to become, I asked. No, Dr. Death said. You'll become like my staff. Emotionless, efficient, perfect. You'll help me transform more patients. Every medic who comes here, every doctor consumed by guilt, you'll help me collect them all, Tommy was gasping for air, but he managed to speak one more time. "The knife, Michael. It's not for surgery. It's for sacrifice. Your sacrifice. He needs you to kill yourself willingly. That's the only way he can take your soul." Dr. Death squeezed harder, and Tommy's voice became a whisper. "Run! Get out of here! Don't let him win!" I looked at the knife in my hand. Then I looked at all the patients around me, not wounded soldiers, but victims of something ancient and hungry. Something that fed on guilt and turned healers into monsters. The heart monitors were beeping. Faster now, more urgently. But it wasn't because the patients were dying. It was because Dr. Death was getting excited. "Choose quickly, Michael," he said. "Your patients are waiting. Your guilt is eating you alive. I can end all of it right now." Behind him, the empty-eyed staff members were gathering, watching, waiting to see if they'd have a new colleague. I gripped the knife tighter and made my choice. I raised the knife, but not toward myself. Instead, I pressed the blade against my own chest, right over my heart, not to kill myself, but to do something Dr. Death wouldn't expect. "I'll make the cut," I said, "but not the way you want." Dr. Death smiled, thinking he'd won. "Excellent choice, Michael. Your patients will thank you." But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I was looking at Tommy, who was still struggling in Dr. Death's grip, my friend, my dog, the loyal companion who'd tried to save me even as he was dying. "I'm sorry, Tommy," I said, "for everything." Then I made the cut. Not deep enough to kill me, but deep enough to hurt, deep enough to bleed. The pain was sharp and clean, like every medical procedure I'd ever performed. But this time, I was both the doctor and the patient. "What are you doing?" Dr. Death demanded. "Surgery," I said calmly, "but not the kind you want." The blood from my chest dripped onto the floor of the hospital. Where it landed, the ground began to change. The artificial medical flooring cracked and peeled away, revealing the forest floor underneath. Real dirt, real leaves, real earth. "You can't do that," Dr. Death said, but his voice sounded worried now. "I'm a medic," I said, making another small cut on my arm. "I know how to find the source of an infection. And you're the infection here." More blood hit the floor. More of the fake hospital began to crumble. The walls flickered between canvas and trees. The surgical lights dimmed and went out one by one. "The patients!" Dr. Death shouted. "You're killing them." But I could see that wasn't true. As the hospital faded away, the plant-human hybrids weren't disappearing. They were changing back. Bark became skin again. Leaves turned into hair. Roots pulled free from the earth and became feet. The soldiers were waking up from their nightmare. "How?" Dr. Death asked. "You made one mistake," I said, cutting deeper into my chest. "The pain was terrible, but I kept going. You thought my guilt was about failing to save people, but that's not what's been eating me alive all these years." Dr. Death let go of Tommy and stepped toward me. As he moved, his kind doctor appearance began to slip. His face became longer, thinner. His fingers grew into claws. His white coat turned black and started moving like it was alive. "My guilt," I continued, "was about something else entirely. Something you never understood." The real Dr. Death was revealing itself now. Not a man at all, but something ancient and hungry. Something that looked like it was made of medical equipment and human bones, held together by dried blood and old bandages. "I felt guilty because I survived," I said. "Because I came home when so many others didn't. Because I got to live a full life while they died young. That's the guilt that's been killing me." I made one final cut, deeper than the others. This one went all the way to the source of my pain, not my heart, but the part of my chest where I'd carried the weight of survival for 30 years. "But guilt over surviving isn't the same as guilt over failing," I said. "And you can't feed on survivors. Guilt the same way you feed on medical failure," Dr. Death screamed. The sound was like every heart monitor flatline I'd ever heard, all playing at once. The hospital crumbled around us, pieces of fake medical equipment dissolving into forest mist. "You're destroying everything," the creature shrieked. "No," I said. "I'm setting them free." The soldiers were standing up now, fully human again. They looked at me with gratitude instead of accusation. One by one they began to fade away, but not into plant monsters, into peace. "Thank you, Doc," Private Martinez said as he disappeared. "Thank you for finally letting us go." "Tell my mom I made it home," said another soldier I didn't recognize. One by one they all said goodbye and faded into light. Not the harsh white light of surgical lamps, but the warm, soft light of a peaceful sunset. Tommy was changing too. He was becoming more human, less dog, as Dr. Death's power over him weakened. "You did it," he said, his voice stronger now. "You found the way out." But I could feel something else happening. The cuts on my chest weren't healing. They were spreading like cracks in glass. The surgery I'd performed on myself was more serious than I'd planned. "Michael," Tommy said, his voice urgent, "you're bleeding too much." He was right. I was losing, blood fast. But strangely, I wasn't afraid. For the first time in 30 years, I felt calm. "It's okay," I said. "This is what was supposed to happen." Dr. Death was shrinking now, becoming less monster and more pathetic. Without the hospital, without the trapped soldiers, it was just a small, angry thing made of old medical waste. "You've ruined everything," it hissed. "Decades of work, hundreds of patients, all gone." "They were never patients," I said. "They were prisoners, and now they're free." The creature made one last attempt to attack me, but it was too weak. It crumbled into dust and blew away in the forest wind. The clearing was quiet now. Just me, Tommy, and the real forest. No more fake hospital, no more impossible patients, just trees and dirt and the sound of a real stream running clear and clean. "You're dying," Tommy said sadly. I nodded. "I know. I could help you. Try to stop the bleeding." "No," I said. "This is right. This is how it's supposed to end." But even as I said it, I could feel something changing in me. The cuts on my chest weren't just bleeding anymore. They were healing, but not in a normal way. The blood was turning into something else, something that connected me to the forest itself. "What's happening to me?" I asked. Tommy looked around at the trees, at the stream, at the peaceful clearing where so much horror had just taken place. "I think," he said slowly, "you're becoming the guardian, the protector of this place." I could feel it happening. My blood was soaking into the ground, connecting me to every tree, every rock, every living thing in the forest. I was becoming part of it, and it was becoming part of me. "Other people will come here," Tommy said. "Other medics, other doctors carrying too much guilt. Someone needs to be here to warn them, to help them find the real way out instead of falling into the same trap." I understood now. This was my final operation. Not to save the dead, but to protect the living. "Will you stay with me?" I asked. Tommy smiled, and for a moment he looked exactly like the golden retriever who'd been my companion for 8 years. "For as long as you need me," he said. I closed my eyes and let the forest take me. When I opened them again, I was still myself, but more than myself. I could feel every hiker on every trail, every person carrying guilt or pain or regret who might wander into these woods looking for peace. And I would be here, waiting, ready to help them find the real cure for their pain. Not the false promise of removing their humanity, but the hard truth of learning to live with their mistakes and forgive themselves anyway. Years passed, maybe decades. Time moves differently when you're part of the forest. People came and went. Some were just regular hikers who enjoyed the peaceful trails and never saw anything unusual. Others were like me, veterans, doctors, nurses, paramedics, carrying the weight of people they couldn't save. I helped them when I could, not by taking away their guilt, but by showing them how to carry it without letting it destroy them. Most of them listened. Most of them left the forest healthier than when they arrived. But some didn't. Some were too far gone, too consumed by their failure to accept any help. They insisted on looking for shortcuts, for miracle cures, for ways to undo the past. Those were the ones who sometimes found traces of the old hospital, pieces of medical equipment that hadn't quite faded away, echoes of Dr. Death's promises. Those were the ones I couldn't always save, like the young paramedic who came through last month. She'd lost a child in a car accident, and the guilt was eating her alive. I tried to talk to her, tried to show her that she'd done everything right, that some tragedies can't be prevented. But she wouldn't listen. She kept walking deeper into the forest, looking for something that would make the pain go away instantly. I followed her as far as I could, but there are limits to where I can go. Parts of the forest that are still dangerous. Places where fragments of the old nightmare still hide. She found one of those places. I heard her screaming for help, but by the time I reached her, it was too late. The medical guilt had found a new host. Something was growing in the deep woods. Again, something hungry and patient, and I realized with growing horror that my victory over Dr. Death hadn't been complete. It had just been the beginning. As I write this, sitting by the stream where it all started, I can feel that thing out there in the darkness, waiting, growing stronger. And I can feel you, reading this story. I can sense the guilt you carry, the patients you couldn't save, the people you failed to help when they needed you most. It's calling to you, isn't it? That voice in your head that says you could have done more, been better, saved them if you'd just been smarter or faster or braver. Don't listen to it. Don't come looking for easy answers. But if you do come, if the guilt becomes too much to bear and you find yourself driving toward Olympic National Forest, remember this. The real cure for guilt isn't forgetting your failures. It's learning to live with them. And if you can't do that alone, I'll be here waiting. In the memorial grove, where the guilty come to feed the harvest. But sometimes, if they're very lucky, they learn to forgive themselves instead. My name is Catherine Murphy, and I wish I had never come to these mountains. I'm 29 years old, and I used to think I knew what fear felt like. I was wrong. Real fear isn't the jump scare in a movie or the spider in your bathroom. Real fear is when you realize that something is very, very wrong with the world around you, and you can't escape it. It started 3 weeks ago, when I came to the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I'm a search and rescue worker, and there had been reports of missing hikers in this area. My job is to find people who get lost in the wilderness and bring them home safely. At least, that's what I thought my job was. I brought my bloodhound, Banshee, with me. She's the best tracking dog I've ever worked with. Her nose can find a person days after they've passed through an area. But from the moment we arrived here, something felt different about her. Different about everything. The mountains here don't look like normal mountains. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. When you look at the valleys from above, they curve and swell like a pregnant woman's belly. The caves scattered around the mountainside look like dark openings leading into something hungry and waiting. The first morning I was here, I sat by my campfire eating breakfast. Everything tasted weird, like milk that had gone bad, mixed with something chemical and sweet. I thought maybe my supplies had spoiled during the drive, but even the water from my bottles tasted wrong. It made me feel sick, but also strangely full, like I was feeding something growing inside me. The forest here changes too fast. I've been in wilderness areas all over the country, but I've never seen anything like this. In one clearing, I saw spring flowers blooming right next to autumn leaves falling from the same trees. Some areas looked dead like winter, while others were thick and green like summer. It was like all 4 seasons were happening at once, which is impossible. But the strangest thing is the mist that comes every morning. It doesn't move like normal fog. It reaches out like arms, wrapping around trees and pulling them into weird shapes. I watched it bend a young oak tree until it looked almost human, twisted and small like those tiny Japanese trees, but shaped like a person trying to escape from something. The Cherokee symbols carved into rocks around here don't help my nerves either. I found an old guidebook that translated some of them. One set of symbols kept appearing everywhere, carved deep into stone like someone was desperate to leave a warning. The book said they meant where the Earth Mother eats her children. I figured it was just old superstition, but now I'm not so sure. Everything sounds wrong here too. The birds don't sing normal songs. They make sounds like babies crying. The wind through the trees whispers things that sound almost like lullabies, the kind you'd sing to help a child fall asleep. And the sunlight, when it filters through the leaves, feels warm and wet against my skin, like being inside something alive. My equipment started acting up on the second day. My GPS kept showing locations that didn't exist. My radio picked up sounds instead of voices, breathing, heartbeats, and sometimes what sounded like a baby moving around before it's born. My metal detector would beep constantly, but when I dug, there was nothing there. The caves are the worst part. Each one I've checked has an opening that seems to pulse like it's breathing. I timed it once with my watch, and I swear the rhythm matched my own heartbeat perfectly. Sometimes I stand at the entrance to a cave and feel like the mountain is breathing with me, like we're connected somehow. I started having strange dreams. On the 3rd night, in them, I'm pregnant, carrying a baby that kicks and moves inside me. But when I wake up, I remember that I've never been pregnant. My fiancé died in a car accident 2 years ago, and we never had the chance to start the family we talked about. Still, I keep having these dreams, and sometimes when I'm awake, I swear I can feel something moving inside me. Banshee has been acting stranger every day. She's always been a normal dog, 4 legs, tail wagging, nose to the ground. But yesterday, I caught her walking on her back legs for a few steps, like a person. When she turned to look at me, her face looked different, more human, more like my mother's face, actually. The disappointed expression my mom used to give me when I did something wrong. The air here hums with a sound I can barely hear. It's high-pitched, like the machines they use at the doctor's office when women are pregnant and want to see their babies. Sometimes I think I can see shapes in that sound, tiny figures floating in the air around me, like ghosts of children who were never born. Yesterday, I found the first cave that really scared me. The entrance was bigger than the others, and the smell coming from inside was wrong. It smelled sweet and sour at the same time, like milk and flowers, but also like something dead. My equipment went completely crazy there. The metal detector screamed so loud I had to turn it off, and my radio picked up what sounded like children singing, but in a language I'd never heard before. Banshee wouldn't go near that cave. She sat 20 feet away and whined, but not like a normal dog. She whined like a person trying not to cry. When I looked at her, she was sitting up straight, like a human would sit, and her eyes looked almost like they were trying to tell me something important. I should have left then. I should have packed up my gear and driven back to civilization. But I couldn't. Something was pulling me deeper into these mountains, deeper toward whatever was waiting in that cave. It felt like the most important thing I'd ever done. Like I was meant to be here. Like something had been waiting for me to come home. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my fiancé's dog tags hanging around my neck. He gave them to me right before he shipped out, and I've worn them every day since he died. But lately, they feel different against my skin, heavier, Sometimes I catch myself touching them without realizing it, like they're calling for attention. When I finally did fall asleep, the dreams came back stronger than before. In this one, I was in a hospital room, and I could feel a baby kicking inside me. The kicks were so real, so strong, that they woke me up. I put my hand on my stomach, and for just a second, I swear, I felt movement under my skin. That's when I noticed how warm I felt. Not sick warm, but like something inside me was generating heat. I took my temperature, and it was normal, but my skin felt like I had a fever. It's been that way ever since. The next morning, my coffee tasted like iron, not just a little metallic. It tasted like I was drinking blood mixed with milk. I poured it out and made a fresh pot, but it tasted the same. Even the stream water I collected tasted wrong, like it was mixed with something thick and warm. Banshee and I started walking deeper into the mountains that day. I told myself, we were following the trail of the missing hikers, but really, I think I was being pulled towards something. Every step felt like I was walking toward home, even though I'd never been here before. The trees around us looked more and more like people as we walked. Some were bent over like they were protecting something in their arms. Others reached up toward the sky like they were begging for help. The strangest ones looked like pregnant women, their trunks swollen in the middle, branches hanging down like protective arms. Banshee started walking beside me instead of in front like she usually does. When I looked down at her, she was looking back at me with an expression I'd never seen on a dog's face before. It looked like concern, like worry, like she was taking care of me instead of the other way around. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. My backpack felt heavier than it should have. When I opened it to check, I found 3 baby bottles filled with a clear liquid that smelled sweet and chemical at the same time. I had never packed baby bottles. I don't even know where they came from. I threw them away, but when I checked my pack an hour later, they were back. The forest around us started to feel different as we walked. Time seemed to move in weird ways. I would look at my watch and see that an hour had passed, but it felt like only minutes. Then sometimes it felt like we'd been walking for hours, but my watch said only 10 minutes had gone by. I started noticing that everything happened in patterns of 9. We would walk for 9 minutes, then rest. We would see 9 trees in a row that looked human. 9 birds would fly overhead, making their crying baby sounds. It was like the whole forest was counting something. The Cherokee symbols on the rocks became more common as we went deeper. They weren't just carved anymore. They seemed to pulse, with a faint light, matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. When I stared at them too long, I could almost understand what they were saying without reading the guidebook. They felt like warnings, like pleas for help. Banshee stopped walking suddenly. She sat down and looked at me with those 2 human eyes. When she opened her mouth, I expected her normal dog panting. Instead, she made a sound that was almost like words, almost like she was trying to tell me something important, almost like she was saying don't. But I kept walking anyway. I had to. Something was calling me forward, and it felt stronger than my own will. It felt like the most natural thing in the world, like a mother answering her child's cry. That's when we found the cave. It was bigger than the others, set into the side of the mountain like a mouth waiting to swallow something. The smell coming from inside was overwhelming now. That sweet, sour milk and death smell, but stronger, so strong it made me dizzy. But there was something else. Around the entrance to the cave, I could see small footprints in the mud. Tiny bare feet, like children, had been playing here. The footprints led from the cave entrance in all directions, but they always came back to the cave. What scared me most was that next to those tiny footprints were bigger ones, bootprints that looked exactly like mine. I knelt down to get a closer look, and my heart nearly stopped. The bootprints weren't similar to mine. They were identical. Same size, same wear pattern on the heel, same small cut on the left sole. where I'd stepped on broken glass last month. But I had never been to this cave before in my life. Banshee whined behind me, but when I turned to look at her, she was standing on her back legs like a person. Her front paws were pressed together, in front of her chest, like she was begging me not to go inside. Like she was praying. The dog tags around my neck felt hot against my skin. When I touched them, they seemed to have grown into my skin slightly, like they were becoming part of me. I tried to lift them away from my neck, but they wouldn't move. They felt like they belonged there, like they had always been there. Inside the cave, I could hear something that made my stomach turn. It sounded like babies crying, but not quite right. Like someone was trying to imitate the sound of babies crying, but didn't quite know how. And underneath that sound was something else, a voice singing a lullaby in a language I didn't recognize, but somehow understood. It was singing about being hungry, about being lonely, about waiting for someone to come home and feed it. As I stood at the entrance to that cave, with those impossible footprints in the mud and my dog standing like a person behind me, I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt like the most natural thing in the world. I was going to go inside. I had to go inside, because something in there was waiting for me. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. Something that knew I was coming home. I turned on my flashlight and stepped into the cave. The beam of light showed me things I wish I could forget. The cave was set up like a nursery. A horrible, twisted nursery made from bones. Along the walls were small beds, cribs made from human bones, held together with something that looked like dried mud, but smelled like old milk. Each crib was just the right size for a baby, and in each one lay tiny skeletons, arranged like they were sleeping peacefully. Some of the skeletons were very old, yellow and cracked. Others looked newer, but they were all positioned the same way, lying on their sides with their little bone hands tucked under their skulls like pillows. Someone had been taking care of them. Someone had been putting them to bed. I counted them as I walked deeper into the cave. 9 cribs on each side, 18 total. The number made my skin crawl, but I couldn't stop counting. My flashlight beam caught something carved into the cave wall above the cribs. More Cherokee symbols, but these were different. They glowed faintly in the dark, pulsing like a heartbeat. I didn't need my guidebook to understand these ones. Somehow I could read them in my head. They said, "Sleep now, my children. Mama will feed you soon." But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that the symbols were carved in my handwriting. I recognized the way I make my letters, the little flourishes I add without thinking. But I had never been in this cave before. I had never carved anything into stone in my life. Banshee wouldn't come into the cave with me. She sat at the entrance, still standing on her back legs like a person, making soft, whining sounds that almost sounded like words. Almost like she was saying, "No, no, no," over and over again. The air inside the cave was thick and warm. It smelled like milk that had been sitting out too long, mixed with baby powder and something rotten underneath. Every breath I took tasted sweet and made me feel a little sick, but also satisfied, like I was drinking something nourishing. My flashlight started to flicker. In the moments when it went dim, I could swear I saw movement in the cribs. Little shapes shifting in the darkness, like the bone babies were turning over in their sleep. That's when I heard the footsteps. They were coming from deeper in the cave, past the nursery area. Small footsteps, like children walking. But they didn't sound right. They sounded wet, like bare feet walking through puddles, but the cave floor was dry. I followed the sound deeper into the cave. My flashlight beam showed me that the walls here were covered in handprints. Small handprints, like children had been playing here, pressing their palms against the stone. But the prints weren't made with mud or paint. They were made with something dark and sticky that smelled like iron. The footsteps stopped. The cave became completely silent, except for my own breathing and heartbeat. That's when I realized that my heartbeat was echoing off the cave walls, getting louder and louder until it sounded like drums. In that drumming rhythm, I started to hear something else, singing, a lullaby being hummed by a voice that sounded almost like mine, but not quite, like someone was trying to copy the way I sound, but couldn't get it exactly right. The song had no words, just a gentle humming melody that made me think of rocking a baby to sleep. It was the kind of song I might have sung to my own children if I'd ever had any. The kind of song I used to imagine singing when I thought about the family. I would never have. My dog tags felt burning hot against my chest now. When I looked down, I could see them glowing faintly through my shirt. The metal was warm enough that it should have hurt, but instead it felt comforting, like a hand on my shoulder, telling me everything would be okay. That's when I saw the trees. Inside the cave, growing up through cracks in the stone floor, were small trees that had been shaped into the forms of women, not carved, grown. The branches had been bent and twisted as they grew until they looked like female figures, with their arms reaching out protectively. Each tree woman was the right size to hold a baby, and in the space between their branch arms, I could see small nests made of soft moss and what looked like human hair. The nests were empty, but they were the perfect size for infants. My backpack felt heavy again. When I opened it, there were more baby bottles inside, not 3 this time, but 9. The liquid in them wasn't clear anymore. It was white and warm, and it smelled exactly like breast milk. I knew I should run. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to get out of that cave and never come back. But I couldn't move. I felt rooted to the spot, like those twisted trees, like I belonged here. The humming got louder. It wasn't coming from deeper in the cave anymore. It was coming from all around me. From the walls, from the bone cribs, from the tree women, even from my own throat, though I wasn't trying to make any sound. That's when I felt it. Movement in my stomach. Not imagination this time. Not a dream. Something was definitely moving. Inside me, rolling and shifting like a baby turning over in the womb. I put my hand on my belly and felt it kick. Strong, healthy kicks that should have been impossible because I wasn't pregnant. I had never been pregnant. But the kicks kept coming, and with each one, I felt a surge of love so powerful it made me dizzy. Love for the child that was somehow growing inside me. Love for the bone babies in their cribs. Love for whatever was humming that lullaby in the darkness. A mother's love, fierce and protective and consuming. The tree women started to move. Their branch arms swayed gently back and forth, like they were rocking invisible babies. The humming got louder, and I realized they were all humming together, the tree women, the cave walls, and me. We were all singing the same lullaby. We were all waiting for the same thing. We were waiting for feeding time. My flashlight went out completely. In the darkness, I could hear more footsteps coming toward me, not the wet child footsteps from before. These were different, bigger, heavier. The footsteps of an adult woman walking slowly and carefully, like someone carrying something precious. The footsteps stopped right in front of me. In the darkness, I felt breath on my face, warm breath that smelled like milk and honey and old bones. A voice spoke, so close I could feel the lips almost touching my ear. It sounded like my voice, but older, wiser, more tired. "Welcome home, daughter," it said. "I've been waiting for you for such a long time." Something touched my face. Fingers that felt like tree branches, gentle but strong. They traced the outline of my cheek, my jaw, my throat, finally coming to rest on the dog tags around my neck. "You've done so well," the voice continued, "bringing all those lost children to me over the years, feeding them to me when they were scared and alone in the woods. You've been such a good daughter, such a good mother." I tried to speak, tried to say that I didn't understand, that I had never brought anyone to this cave. But the words wouldn't come, because deep down, In a part of my mind I didn't want to look at, I was starting to remember. I was starting to remember all the hikers I had rescued over the years, all the people I had led into the woods, telling them I knew the way to safety, all the children who had trusted me because I was a rescue worker, because I was supposed to help them. I was starting to remember what I had really been doing all this time. The fingers touched my stomach where something was moving and growing. And now, the voice said, "It's time for you to feed your own children, our children, the family you've always wanted." In the darkness, I heard the sound of babies crying, not bone babies this time, living babies, hungry and waiting for their mother to take care of them, waiting for me. My flashlight flickered back on, and I saw her. She was 12 feet tall, maybe more. Her skin was pale like old milk, and she had too many arms, at least 6 that I could see, all reaching out in different directions, like she was trying to hug the whole world at once. Her body was shaped like a woman's, but wrong. Too big, too long, too much of everything. But the worst part was her chest. She had breasts, but not just 2 like a normal woman. She had dozens of them, all different sizes, and they were leaking. White liquid dripped from them constantly, pooling on the cave floor and making that sweet, sour smell that had been following me for days. Her face looked like mine, but older. Much older. Like she was what I might become if I lived for 1,000 years. Her eyes were kind but hungry, the way a mother looks at a baby she wants to protect and feed at the same time. "Don't be afraid," she said, and her voice was definitely my voice, just deeper and more tired. "I know this is confusing, but you'll understand soon." She gestured to her stomach, and I saw something that made me step backward. Her belly was see-through, like glass or clear plastic. Inside, I could see shapes moving around. Dozens of them. They looked like babies, but not quite right. Some were too small, some too big. Some had too many arms or legs. They were all floating in thick liquid, and they were all moving constantly, like they were trying to swim to the surface. "These are our children," she said, sounding proud. "All the children who were lost or forgotten or unwanted. I take care of them now. I give them a home, a family, a mother who will never leave them." One of her many hands reached out toward me. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. Her fingers were long and thin, and when she touched my face, they felt warm and soft, like my own mother's hands when I was little and sick. "You've been helping me for so long," she said. "Every person you brought to the woods, every hiker who trusted you to lead them to safety, you brought them to me instead, and I was so grateful. They helped feed my children, helped them grow strong." I tried to shake my head, tried to say that wasn't true, but the memories were coming back. Now, clear as day, I remembered leading a family with 2 small children deeper into the woods instead of toward the trail. I remembered telling them it was a shortcut. I remembered the moment when they realized we were lost, and the way the children looked at me with such trust, such hope that I would fix everything. I remembered walking away and leaving them there for her. "You were always meant to be a mother," she continued, her hand moving down to touch my stomach. "But life took that away from you when your man died. So I gave you a different kind of motherhood. I let you help me take care of all these lost children." The thing moving in my stomach kicked harder, and I felt a surge of love so strong it made me dizzy. Love for the baby that was somehow growing inside me. Love for the strange woman in front of me. Love for all the floating babies in her clear belly. "But now it's time for the next step," she said. "You're ready to be a real mother, to carry your own children and feed them with your own body." She gestured to the tree women around us. "These were like you once. Women who lost their children, or who never had children, or who wanted children so badly it hurt. I gave them what they wanted. I gave them motherhood." I looked at the tree women more carefully. Now I could see that they weren't just shaped. Like women, they had been women once. I could see faces in the bark, eyes that followed me as I moved. They were still alive, still conscious, still caring for their invisible babies. Banshee was like you too, the Mountain Mother said. She was a woman named Sarah who couldn't have children. She begged me to let her be a mother, so I gave her a different kind of motherhood. I let her help you find food for my children. She's been so loyal, so helpful. I thought about my dog standing on her back legs, looking at me with those two human eyes. I thought about the way she had been trying to warn me, trying to tell me not to come into the cave. She had been trying to protect me, but she couldn't speak the words. The choice is yours, the Mountain Mother said. You can stay here with us and be the mother you were always meant to be. You can feed your children and watch them grow. You can have the family you always wanted. She pointed to her stomach again. Or you can leave. Go back to your empty life, your empty apartment, your job rescuing people who don't really need rescuing. You can go back to being alone. The baby in my stomach kicked again, and I felt another wave of love. But this time, there was something else mixed in with it. Hunger. Deep, gnawing hunger that felt like I hadn't eaten in days. What do they eat? I asked, though I was afraid to hear the answer. The Mountain Mother smiled, and her teeth were too white, too sharp. Love, she said. They eat love. Parental love, the love that mothers and fathers have for their children. It's the purest food there is. She gestured to the cave around us. Every time someone comes into these woods with their children, I can smell that love. It calls to me like the most delicious cooking, and when you bring them to me, I can feed my children properly. I understood now. The missing hikers weren't just lost, they were being used as food. Their love for their children was being drained away to feed the things growing in her belly and mine. But I'll starve them, I said. I don't have any children to love. The Mountain Mother laughed, a sound like wind through leaves. Oh, my dear daughter, you have so many children. All of my children are your children now. All of these babies that have been growing and waiting. They're all yours to love and feed. She reached out with all of her arms and pulled me close. Her skin was warm and soft, and she smelled like milk and honey and fresh bread. For a moment, I felt completely safe, completely loved, like I was being hugged by the best mother in the world. And soon, she whispered in my ear, you'll help me find more food, more families to feed our children, more love to keep them strong and healthy. I felt the baby in my stomach kick again, and this time I could swear I felt tiny hands pressing against the inside of my belly like it was trying to reach out and touch me, trying to tell me it was hungry. Behind me, I could hear Banshee whining at the cave entrance. She was trying to call me back, trying to get me to leave, but she couldn't come in to get me because she knew what would happen if she did. She knew the Mountain Mother would never let either of us go. The tree women were swaying more now, their branch arms moving in rhythm like they were rocking babies. The humming had turned into words, a lullaby I had never heard before, but somehow knew by heart. Sleep now, little ones. Mama's here to stay. Feed on love and grow strong. Grow strong every day. When you're big and hungry, we'll find you more. To eat more mamas, more daddies, more love, to make you complete. I opened my mouth to sing along, and the words came out perfectly like I had been practicing this song my whole life. That's when I realized the choice had already been made. The moment I stepped into this cave, the moment I let her touch me, the moment I felt love for the thing growing inside me. I was already hers, I was already a mother, and I was already hungry. The Mountain Mother smiled when she heard me singing. Good, she said. You understand now. She led me deeper into the cave, past the bone cribs and the tree women. The walls here were covered in family photos, hundreds of them, all showing parents with their children. Happy families on vacation, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, normal people living normal lives. These are the ones who fed us, she explained, pointing to the photos. Every family that came camping in these mountains, every parent who brought their children hiking, They gave us so much love before they became part of us. I stopped walking. What happened to them? The mountain mother's expression grew sad, but not sorry. They're still here. They're part of my children now. Part of our children. Their love lives on, feeding our babies, helping them grow strong. She showed me a photo of a man and woman with twin boys, maybe 6 years old. The family was smiling at the camera, sitting around a campfire. The Hendersons, she said. They came here last spring. So much love in that family, so much joy. My children ate well for months. I felt sick, but also proud, like I had done something good by bringing them here. The feeling confused me, scared me, but I couldn't push it away. And now, the mountain mother said, you'll help me find more. You'll go back to your job, back to your life, but you'll know your real purpose. You'll bring more families to feed our children. The baby in my stomach kicked, and I felt that wave of love again, mixed with hunger. I put my hand on my belly and felt something that made my breath catch. There wasn't just one baby in there anymore. I could feel multiple movements, like I was carrying twins or triplets or more. How many? I asked. As many as you can love, she said. As many as you can feed. They'll grow as your love grows, and your love will grow as you feed them more families. She touched my face again, and this time I leaned into her hand like a child seeking comfort. You'll be such a good mother, Catherine. You already are. You've been practicing for years. I thought about all the search and rescue missions I'd been on, all the lost hikers I'd found, all the families I'd helped. Except now, I was remembering it differently. I was remembering leading them away from safety instead of toward it. I was remembering the moment when they realized they were in trouble and how that fear made their love for each other stronger, sweeter, more nourishing. I want to see them, I said. My babies. The mountain mother placed her hands on my stomach, and suddenly I could see through my own skin just like she could. Inside my belly, floating in warm liquid, were 3 small shapes. They didn't look quite human. Their arms were too long, their heads too big, but they were mine. They were my children, and I loved them more than I had ever loved anything. They were moving constantly, swimming around each other, playing. When they sensed me watching, they pressed their little hands against the inside of my belly, like they were trying to touch me back. I felt tears on my cheeks, but they were happy tears. When will they be born? I asked. When you've fed them. Enough, she said. When you've brought me enough families to make them strong. It might take months or years, but you have all the time in the world now. The cave began to change around us. The walls stretched and expanded until we were standing in a vast nursery. Thousands of bone cribs lined the walls, each one containing a sleeping skeleton child. The tree women were everywhere, swaying and humming, rocking their invisible babies. And there were others, living women like me, with swollen bellies and dreamy expressions. They walked among the cribs, tending to the bone babies, singing lullabies, feeding them with bottles filled with that sweet white liquid. Your sisters, the mountain mother explained. Other mothers like you, they help me take care of all our children. One of the women came over to us. She looked like she had been beautiful once, but now her skin was pale and her eyes were too bright. She was hugely pregnant, bigger than any pregnant woman I'd ever seen, like she was carrying a dozen babies. Welcome, sister, she said, and her voice was soft and tired. I'm Mary. I've been here for... Well, time doesn't really matter anymore. What matters is our children. She placed her hand on my belly, and my babies responded by moving toward her touch. They're beautiful, she said. Strong. They'll be excellent hunters when they're older. Hunters? I asked. Mary smiled. That's what we call it when they go out into the world to find food, to find families. Some of my children are old enough now. They look just like regular people, but they know how to smell love, how to find families that have lots of it to share. She pointed to a corner of the nursery where several normal-looking people stood. Men and women of different ages, all with that same too bright look in their eyes. They work in camping supply stores, at park entrances, in hotels near hiking trails. They help families plan their trips, suggest the best trails, give them maps. They're very helpful. I understood. The children that were born here, the ones that grew up feeding on parental love, they went out into the world and lured more families. And back. It was a perfect system, always growing, always feeding, always creating more children who needed more love. I want to help, I said, and I meant it. The love I felt for my unborn babies was so strong, it made everything else seem unimportant. My old life, my job, my apartment, none of that mattered anymore. All that mattered was taking care of my children and making sure they had enough to eat. The mountain mother pulled me close again. I know you do, she said. You're going to be wonderful at this. You already are. She handed me one of the baby bottles filled with white liquid. For your children, she said. Drink this and they'll grow stronger. I drank it without hesitation. It tasted like the sweetest milk I'd ever had, mixed with something that tasted like pure love. As it went down my throat, I felt my babies moving more actively, growing larger, getting stronger. Now, the mountain mother said, it's time for you to go back to your life, your job. But you'll remember us. You'll remember what you're really working for. The cave began to fade around me. The last thing I saw was the mountain mother's face, smiling proudly at me like any mother would smile at her daughter. Bring us more families, Catherine, she said. Bring us more love. Our children are counting on you. I found myself standing outside the cave in the normal daylight. Banshee was beside me, but she was walking on 4 legs again, looking like a regular dog. When she looked up at me, though, her eyes still held that human intelligence, that desperate need to communicate. But I didn't need her warnings anymore. I understood everything now. I packed up my gear and drove back to town. I went back to my job, my apartment, my normal life. But everything was different now. I could see families everywhere, parents with their children, so full of love it made my mouth water. I started taking on more search and rescue missions. I became known as the best tracker in the state. Families would specifically request me when their loved ones went missing in the mountains. They trusted me. They knew I would bring their people home. And I did. I brought them home. Just not the way they expected. My babies are getting bigger now. I can feel them moving all the time, pressing against my ribs, kicking my lungs. Sometimes I can hear them whispering to each other in a language I don't understand, but somehow know. They're planning, talking about all the families they'll hunt when they're born. I'm so proud of them. Last week I led a family of 5 into the mountains. The parents were so worried about their 3 children, so protective, so loving. The children trusted me completely, holding my hands as we walked deeper into the woods. They fed my babies well. And now, as I sit here writing this story, I can feel something new. One of my babies is ready to be born. Not in the normal way. I can feel it preparing to emerge from my skin, to step out of me fully grown and ready to hunt. It's going to look just like a normal person. It's going to get a job, maybe in a camping store or a park office. It's going to help families plan their trips to the mountains. It's going to be so helpful, so trustworthy. Just like me. And if you're reading this story, if you felt anything while reading it, any protectiveness toward children, any parental love, any desire to keep your family safe, then you should know something. I can smell it on you. That love, that beautiful, nourishing love. And I know exactly where you live. My children are hungry and they're ready to come home with me. See you soon. My name is Vincent Thorne, and I should have died 10 years ago in Korea. But here I am, sitting by Mirror Lake in the Adirondack State Park, watching the strangest sunrise I've ever seen. The sun looks wrong today. Instead of golden yellow, it's blood red, like someone painted it with fresh paint. The old hemlock trees around the lake look black against that red sky, their branches reaching out like skeleton fingers. I've been a park ranger here for 3 years, and I've never seen anything like this. My German Shepherd Ranger sits next to me on this fallen log. He's been acting weird all morning. Usually, he's wagging his tail and sniffing around for squirrels. Today, he just stares at the water with his ears flat against his head. Dogs know things we don't, my dad used to say. I take a sip of my coffee, and it tastes strange. Metallic, like I'm sucking on pennies. Maybe the pot needs cleaning. I made it the same way I always do. 2 scoops of grounds, water from the pump behind the ranger station. Nothing different. The lake is perfectly still, like glass. No wind at all. But when I look at the water, something's not right. Instead of seeing the red sky reflected back, I see faces. Pale faces floating just under the surface, looking up at me with empty eyes. I blink hard and look again. Just water now. Just my imagination. "What do you think, boy?" I ask Ranger, scratching behind his ears. Am I losing my mind? He doesn't wag his tail. He doesn't even look at me. His eyes stay fixed on the water, and a low growl starts in his throat. That's when I notice the birds. They're singing backwards. I know that sounds crazy, but I've listened to these woods every morning for 3 years. I know the sound of a robin's call, the chatter of chipmunks, the cry of hawks overhead. Today it all sounds reversed, like someone recorded the forest and played it backwards. First I hear birds I don't recognize, strange calls that sound ancient, wild. Then the familiar sounds of robins and blue jays from this year. But underneath it all, there's something else, something that sounds like radios, static and voices, far away but getting closer. My watch is acting up too. The second hand is moving backwards, but the shadows of the trees are moving forward, faster than they should. It makes my head hurt to watch, makes my teeth ache. I stand up from the log, and that's when I notice it feels different under my feet, softer. When I look down, the bark looks strange. It has ridges and bumps that remind me of something, but I can't put my finger on what. The smell hits me next. The pine and fresh mountain air I love so much is changing. There's something else mixing with it, something sharp and bitter that burns my nose. It smells like the 4th of July, like firecrackers and smoke. But there's more. Under that smell, something sweet and sick, like flowers left too long in a vase, like... I shake my head. I need to stop this. I'm a grown man, not some kid scared of shadows. But my hand goes to my chest, where Margaret's wedding ring hangs on a chain under my shirt. The metal is warm, against my skin. Too warm. Margaret, my wife. Gone 2 years now from the cancer. She always said I worried too much, that I needed to let go of the past. "Vincent," she'd say, "you can't save everyone. You couldn't save them in Korea. And you can't save me, but you can save yourself." Easy for her to say. She never had to choose between saving herself and saving others. She never had to live with the names that whisper in my head every night. Wilson, Kim, Rodriguez, Morrison. A splash makes me look up. Something big moved in the water. The surface breaks in rings, but I don't see what caused it. Ranger is on his feet now, the fur on his back standing straight up. His growl is deeper, more animal than I've ever heard from him. That's when I see the trees around the lake. Fresh scratches in the bark, like something with claws walked by during the night. But these aren't random marks. They form letters, names. Wilson, Kim, Rodriguez, Morrison. All the names from my squad. All the boys who didn't make it home. The morning mist is getting thicker, even though the sun is getting higher. It should be burning off by now, but instead, it's getting worse. The fog moves in patterns that don't make sense, swirling around the trees like it's alive. And in that mist, I swear I can see shapes moving, human shapes, walking toward me. My coffee cup slips from my hand and shatters on the rocks. The sound echoes across the water, but it doesn't sound like breaking glass. It sounds like gunfire. Ranger barks once, sharp and scared. Then he goes quiet and presses against my leg. His whole body is shaking. That's when I hear the voices in the mist calling my name. Vincent! Vincent! I know those voices. I've been hearing them in my dreams for 10 years. I need to get back to the ranger station. That's what I tell myself as I start walking away from the lake, Ranger close at my side. My legs feel heavy, like I'm walking through mud instead of on the familiar dirt path. The voices stopped when I started moving, but I can still feel them behind me, watching, following. I've walked this trail 1,000 times. I know every rock, every tree root that sticks up from the ground, but today everything looks slightly wrong. The path curves where it should go straight. Trees that were on my left yesterday are now on my right. I stop and pull out my compass. The needle spins in circles, never settling on any direction. Great, just great. Okay, Vincent, I say out loud, trying to keep my voice steady. You're tired. You didn't sleep well last night, that's all this is. But I did sleep well. For the first time in months, I actually slept through the night without the dreams. No nightmares about Korea, no sounds of gunfire, no screaming. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe my mind doesn't know what to do without the guilt keeping it busy. The radio on my belt crackles to life. Static at first, then voices. But these aren't the voices of other park rangers or emergency services. These are different, older. Charlie team, this is base, do you copy? My blood turns cold. That's military radio chatter, Korean War radio chatter. I haven't heard voices like that since 1953. We need medic support at grid reference 77 Alpha. I know that voice. It's mine, my voice from 10 years ago, calling for help that never came. I turn off the radio with shaking hands. The forest goes quiet again, but it's not a natural quiet. It's the kind of silence that comes before something terrible happens. The smell is getting stronger now, not just firecrackers anymore. It's the smell of burning things, burning wood, burning metal, burning other things I don't want to think about, mixed with something sweet and sickly. Ranger stops walking and sits down hard on the trail. He won't go any further, no matter how much I call to him. His brown eyes look scared, really scared. Dogs don't get scared of nothing. That's when I notice the trees around us. The bark is wrong. Instead of the rough, normal bark of pine and oak trees, it looks smooth and white, like bone, like old sun-bleached bone. I reach out to touch one and it's warm. Trees shouldn't be warm. My watch is still running backwards, but now I can hear it ticking. Loud ticks like a clock in an empty room. Each tick makes my headache worse. The shadows are still moving wrong too. They're getting longer, even though the sun is getting higher. Some shadows don't match the trees that should be making them. Some shadows look like people standing where no one is standing. I pull out my phone to call for help, but there's no signal. The screen shows the time as 3:17 a.m., but that can't be right. I've been out here since sunrise. Then I see something that makes me stop breathing. About 20 feet ahead, right in the middle of the trail, there's a pile of something white. At first I think it's just rocks, or maybe some trash that blew in from the camping area. But as I get closer, I see what it really is. Bones. Human bones. Leg bones, to be exact. 12 of them, arranged in 2 neat rows like soldiers standing at attention. My throat goes dry. I know I should run. Every part of my brain is screaming at me to turn around and get out of these woods. But my feet keep moving forward. The bones spell out a word. Coward. That's when I hear my name again. Not from behind me this time, but from ahead. From the direction of the ranger station. Vincent, Vincent, you left us. Vincent, you ran away. Vincent, you saved yourself. 12 voices. The voices of 12 men who died because I was too scared to help them. I close my eyes and take a deep breath. When I open them again, the bones are gone. The trail looks normal. The trees have regular bark again. But Ranger is still sitting there, still scared, still won't move, and the voices are still calling my name. I pull Margaret's ring out from under my shirt and hold it tight. The metal burns against my palm, but I don't let go. She always kept me grounded. Even now, 2 years after the cancer took her, she's still trying to help me. It's not real, I whisper. None of this is real. But even as I say it, I know I'm lying to myself. Deep down in the part of my mind I try to keep locked away, I know exactly what this is. This is guilt. 10 years of guilt finally coming to collect what it's owed. I sit down on a fallen tree next to Ranger and try to think clearly. My hands are shaking, so I put them in my pockets. The dog moves closer to me, and I can feel him trembling too. "Okay, boy," I say quietly. "Let's figure this out." But I already know what this is about. It's about Korea. It's always about Korea. It was 1953. I was 28 years old and scared out of my mind. We were supposed to be heading home. The war was almost over. Just one more patrol, they said. One more hill to check. I was the squad leader. 12 good men following me into those mountains. Wilson was just 19, still talking about his girlfriend back home. Kim was the medic, always patching us up and telling jokes to keep our spirits up. Rodriguez had a baby daughter he'd never met. They trusted me. They followed me. And when the shooting started, I ran. I tell myself I went for help. I tell myself I was trying to get to the radio to call for backup. But the truth is simpler and uglier than that. I was scared and I ran. By the time I came back with help, they were all dead. 12 good men scattered across that hillside like broken toys. The army called me a hero, said I'd shown courage, under fire by going for reinforcements. They gave me a medal and sent me home with a pat on the back, but I knew the truth. And now, 10 years later, sitting in these woods with my dead wife's ring burning against my chest, that truth is finally catching up with me. I look down at my arms. The scars from Korea are there like always. Shrapnel wounds from the explosion that threw me clear of the fighting. But today, they look different, darker, and there are more of them. New scars are appearing as I watch. Thin lines across my forearms, like someone's writing on my skin with a knife. I roll up my sleeves and see names being carved into my flesh. Letter by letter. Wilson, Kim, Rodriguez, Morrison. It doesn't hurt. It should hurt, but it doesn't. The blood is real, though. Dark red drops falling onto the forest floor. This isn't happening, I say out loud, but my voice sounds hollow, even to me. I reach into my pocket and pull out my wallet. Inside, folded up small and worn soft from handling, is a newspaper clipping from 1953. 12 soldiers killed in enemy ambush. Lone survivor tells of heroic last stand. I've read it 1,000 times. I've memorized every word, and every word is a lie. The wind picks up, and I hear something that makes my heart stop. Footsteps. Not just one person, but several, coming through the trees toward us. Ranger's ears go flat against his head. He presses against my leg so hard, I can feel his ribs shaking. The footsteps are getting closer. Slow, steady steps, like soldiers on patrol. I can hear equipment jingling, canteens, ammunition belts, dog tags. Vincent. One voice clear as day. Sergeant Morrison, my old squad leader before they made me take over. He died trying to get the wounded to safety while I was running for the hills. "Vincent, we've been waiting for you." I stand up fast, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. "You're not real. You're dead. You've been dead for 10 years. But even as I say it, I can see them coming through the trees. 12 shapes in military uniforms, moving between the shadows. They look exactly like they did the day they died. Young, trusting, ready to follow orders, ready to follow me. "We know what you did," says Wilson's voice, soft and sad. "We know why you ran. We don't blame you," adds Kim. "We understand. You were scared. But there's something wrong with their voices, something hollow and echoing, like they're calling from the bottom of a deep well. And their faces. I can't quite see their faces clearly. They shift and blur, like heat waves rising off hot pavement, but their eyes are clear enough, dark holes where eyes should be, staring right at me. "We just want to talk, Vincent," Morrison says. "We want to understand why our friend left us to die." My legs give out and I sit down hard on the log. The wood feels soft under me, spongy and warm. When I look down, I see it's not a log at all. It's a spine, a huge human spine, curved and white, still warm with life. I jump up, but there's nowhere to go. The 12 shapes are all around us now, forming a circle. Ranger whimpers and hides behind my legs. "It's time, Vincent," Morrison says. "Time to face what you did. Time to make it right." "How?" I ask, surprised to hear my own voice. "How can I make it right? You're dead. You've been dead for 10 years. There are others," Wilson says. "Other soldiers carrying guilt like yours. Other cowards who need to be collected. Bring them to us," Kim adds. "Help us grow stronger. Help us become whole again." "And then?" I ask. Morrison steps closer. His face is clearer now, and I can see the bullet holes in his forehead. "Then you can join us, Vincent. Then you can finally stop running." The circle tightens around us, 12 dead soldiers waiting for my answer. I close my eyes and count to 10. When I open them, maybe this will all be gone. Maybe I'll be back at the lake with my coffee, watching a normal sunrise. 1, 2, 3, I can still hear them breathing. Dead men don't breathe, but I can hear the air moving in and out of their lungs. 4, 5, 6. The smell is getting worse. Not just smoke and gunpowder now, but something rotten, something that's been dead too long. 7, 8, 9. Ranger whimpers. His nose is better than mine. He can smell things I can't even imagine. 10. I open my eyes. They're still there. All 12 of them, standing in their circle, waiting. But something else has changed. The forest around us doesn't look like the Adirondacks anymore. The trees are different, shorter, more twisted. The ground is rocky and bare in places. There are no mountains in the distance that I recognize. This looks like Korea. This looks like that hill where my squad died. "No," I say, shaking my head. "This isn't real. I'm having some kind of breakdown, post-traumatic stress or something. I need to get back to the station and call for help." "There is no station," Morrison says calmly. "There never was. You've been here the whole time, Vincent. You've been here with us for 10 years. That's crazy. I've been working as a park ranger. I have a job, a house. I had a wife. Margaret died in 1955, Wilson says. 2 years after. You did. The cancer took her while you were busy being dead." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. No, Margaret died 2 years ago. We had 8 good years together after the war. But even as I say it, something feels wrong. The memories of those 8 years are fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. I can remember the big moments, our wedding, buying the house, her getting sick. But the small stuff, the daily life, it's all blurry. "Check your pockets," Kim says. "Check what you're carrying." I don't want to, but my hands move on their own. I reach into my jacket pocket and pull out my wallet. But it's not the brown leather wallet I remember. This one is green canvas, military issue, my old army wallet. Inside, there's no driver's license, no credit cards, no pictures of Margaret and me at the lake. Just my old military ID, yellow and cracked with age. The photo shows a young man I barely recognize. The date says 1953. My hands are shaking as I put the wallet away. I reach for my phone, but instead I pull out my old army compass, the one that got broken in the explosion. "This isn't possible," I whisper. "Look at your dog," Rodriguez says. I look down at Ranger, but the German shepherd that's been by my side for 3 years is changing. His fur is getting darker, shaggier. His ears are getting pointed. His eyes are turning yellow. He's not a dog anymore. He's becoming something else. something wild. Ranger was never a dog, Morrison explains. He's your guilt, Vincent. He's been keeping you company all these years, making sure you never forgot what you did. The thing that used to be Ranger looks up at me with those yellow eyes. When he opens his mouth, human words come out. I kept you safe, he says in a voice that sounds like mine. I kept you here, where you couldn't hurt anyone else. I stumble backward, but there's nowhere to go. The circle of soldiers moves with me, always keeping me in the center. The forest is changing more now. Korean pine trees grow up through the Adirondack oaks. Bamboo shoots push through the New York soil. In the distance, I can see smoke rising from villages that shouldn't exist. This is where you belong, Morrison says. This is where you've always belonged. With us, with the men you let die. My chest feels tight. The air is getting thin, like we're high up in the mountains. My old shrapnel wounds are burning like they're fresh. I tried to make up for it, I say. I became a park ranger. I helped people. I saved hikers who got lost. I prevented forest fires. Did you? Wilson asks. Or did you just imagine you did? Did you make up a whole life to hide from what really happened? I think about the hikers I've rescued over the years. But when I try to remember their faces, they all looked the same. They all looked like the soldiers from my squad. I think about the fires I've fought, but maybe they weren't forest fires. Maybe they were the burning villages in Korea, the ones we couldn't save. Show him, Morrison says to the others. They step aside, and I can see past them into the forest. There, hanging from the trees like Christmas ornaments, are dog tags. Hundreds of them, thousands, all different names, all different wars. We're not the only ones, Kim explains. This place collects soldiers like you, soldiers who ran, soldiers who let their friends die. It feeds on guilt, Vincent, and there's so much guilt in the world. The tags are moving in a wind I can't feel, clinking together like a sad song. Each one represents a life cut short, a friend abandoned, a moment of cowardice that echoes forever. What do you want from me? I ask. What we've always wanted, Morrison says. We want you to stop pretending. We want you to accept what you are. And what am I? Dead, they all say together. You're dead, Vincent. You died on that hill in Korea, just like the rest of us. The only difference is you died a coward. The thing that used to be Ranger growls and shows teeth that are too sharp, too white. It's time to choose, Morrison says. Join us willingly, or we'll make you join us. Around us, the forest of guilt grows thicker. More dog tags appear. More shadows move between the trees. And I realize I'm not the only living person here. There are others. Other soldiers from other wars. Other moments of cowardice. All trapped in this place. All feeding the thing that feeds on shame. The 12 soldiers step closer, and I can see them clearly now. But they're not quite human anymore. Their faces are still the faces of the boys I knew. Wilson with his crooked smile, Kim with his thick glasses, Rodriguez with the scar on his chin from a childhood accident. But their eyes are wrong, yellow eyes like animals, and their teeth are too sharp. What happened to you? I ask. We changed, Morrison says. His voice sounds different now, deeper. We've been here so long, we became something else, something that hunts. Hunts what? Cowards, Wilson says, and when he smiles, I see fangs. Soldiers who ran away, soldiers like you. They're walking on 2 legs, but their hands look more like claws now. Their uniforms are torn and dirty, stained with blood that never dried. And when they move like a pack, like wolves. We're not the same boys who died on that hill, Kim explains. We're something new, something hungry. The thing that used to be Ranger has completely changed now. He's bigger, standing, almost as tall as me on his back legs. His fur is black and matted. His yellow eyes glow in the dim forest light. He was the first, Morrison says, pointing at Ranger. Your guilt was so strong it created him. He's been feeding on your shame for 10 years, getting stronger. I back away, but there's nowhere to go. The circle is tight around me now. What do you want? I ask again. We want to grow, Morrison says. We want to become more than just 12 hungry ghosts. We want to become something powerful. How? By collecting others like you, Wilson says. By bringing them here to feed us. There's a Vietnam vet in town, Kim adds. Lives alone, drinks too much. He lost his whole platoon in a jungle somewhere, blames himself every day. There's a young soldier from Iraq, Rodriguez says, can't sleep at night, sees the faces of the children who died when his convoy took a wrong turn. Bring them to us, Morrison says. Help us grow strong enough to leave this place. Help us hunt in the real world. And if I say no, they all laugh, and the sound is like wolves howling. Then you become our food instead, Morrison says. We'll tear you apart and eat your guilt piece by piece. It'll last us months. I can see other shapes moving in the trees now. More soldiers from different wars, some in World War II uniforms, some in Vietnam gear, some in desert camouflage, all with the same yellow eyes, all with the same sharp teeth. How many are there? I ask. Hundreds, Morrison says. Every war produces cowards, Vincent. Every battle has someone who runs. They all end up here eventually. What is this place? It's where guilt goes to grow, Kim says. It's where shame becomes something real, something alive. The forest around us is completely Korean now. Rocky hills, sparse trees, the smell of smoke and fear. But it's wrong somehow. The rocks are too white like bone. The trees have no leaves, just bare branches that look like reaching arms. This isn't Korea, I realize. This is something else wearing Korea's face. Smart boy, Morrison says. This place takes the shape of your worst memory. For you, that's the hill where we died. For the Vietnam vet, it's a jungle. For the Iraq soldier, it's a desert road. But it's all the same place, Wilson adds. All the same hungry thing. I think about Margaret, sweet, kind Margaret, who never hurt anyone. Did she really die in 1955? Or did I imagine 8 years of marriage to hide from the truth? Margaret was real, Kim says, reading my thoughts. But she's not part of this world anymore. She moved on. You didn't. She tried to help you, Rodriguez adds. Even after she died, she tried to pull you away from here. But your guilt was too strong. I remember her last words. Let go, Vincent. Let go and come find me. But I couldn't let go. I held on to my shame like a security blanket. Time to choose, Morrison says. The pack closes in around me, yellow eyes gleaming. Join us willingly and we'll make you a hunter. Refuse and become our prey. What about the people in town? What about the other park rangers? What people? Wilson asks. What rangers? When was the last time you actually talked to another human being, Vincent? I think about it. Really think about it. The other rangers at the station. When did I last have a real conversation with one of them? The people who came to the park. When did I last look them in the eye? You've been alone for 10 years, Morrison says. Alone with your guilt and your ghost dog. Alone in this place that feeds on what you did. The pack starts to circle me, moving like real wolves now. Some on 2 legs, some dropping to all 4s. Their claws scrape against the rocky ground. Choose, they all say together. Choose now. I look at the thing that used to be Ranger. He's watching me with those yellow eyes, waiting to see what I'll do. If I help you, I say slowly, if I bring others here, what happens to them? They become like us, Morrison says. Or they become food, depends on how strong their guilt is. And the people I bring will suffer like I've suffered. Forever, Wilson says with a smile that's all teeth. I think about the Vietnam vet Kim mentioned. Some poor guy drinking himself to death because he couldn't save his friends. I think about the young soldier from Iraq, probably not much older than Wilson was when he died. Do I want to condemn them to this? Do I want to feed their pain to these hungry ghosts? Or do I let them tear me apart instead? The pack stops circling and waits for my answer. In the distance, I can hear more howling, more packs calling to each other across this twisted forest of guilt. I stand there in the middle of the circle, looking at the faces of my old squad. These boys who trusted me. These boys who died because I ran away. I need time to think, I say. Morrison laughs, and it sounds like breaking glass. You've had 10 years to think, Vincent. 10 years of hiding in your make-believe life. The Vietnam vet, I say quietly. Tell me about him. His name is Danny, Kim says. 62 years old. Lives in a trailer behind the gas station. His squad got lost in the jungle in 1968. Enemy found them first. Danny was the only one who made it out. Did he run too? He tried to go back for them, Wilson says, but he was too late. Found them all dead, cut up real bad. Been drinking ever since, trying to forget their faces. I close my eyes. I can picture Danny, probably sitting in his trailer right now, staring at an old photograph, wondering why he survived when better men didn't. And the Iraq soldier. Tommy, Rodriguez says, 25 years old, works at the hardware store. His convoy hit a roadside bomb 2 years ago. He was driving. 3 soldiers died, plus a family with 2 little kids. Accident or choice? Does it matter? Morrison asks. He feels guilty either way. Guilt is guilt, Vincent. It all tastes the same to us. The pack moves restlessly around me. I can hear their claws clicking on the stone, their breath coming in short pants. They're getting hungry. What happens if I say no? I ask. What happens if I refuse to bring them here? We tear you apart slowly, Wilson says. We eat your guilt piece by piece. We make it last. And then we find Danny and Tommy ourselves, Morrison says. Without your help, it'll take longer. But we'll get them eventually. Guilt always finds its way here. I think about running, but there's nowhere to go. This forest goes on forever, full of hungry ghosts and twisted memories. And even if I could escape, what kind of life would I have? More years of pretending, more years of hiding from what I did. If I help you, I say slowly, if I bring them here, you'll make me like you. You'll become a hunter, Kim says. No more guilt, no more shame, just hunger and the hunt. Will I remember who I was? You'll remember, Morrison says, but it won't hurt anymore. Nothing will hurt anymore. No, more sleepless nights, no more nightmares, no more waking up with their names on my lips. But Tommy and Danny would take my place. They'd suffer like I've suffered. They'd be torn apart by their own guilt while these things grew stronger. There's another choice, I say suddenly. The pack stops moving. Morrison tilts his head like a curious dog. What choice? You said this place feeds on guilt, that it needs guilt to exist. So, what happens if someone stops feeling guilty? What happens if they let it go? Morrison's yellow eyes narrow. That's not possible. Guilt doesn't just go away. Margaret tried to tell me, I say, more to myself than to them. She said I needed to let go. She said I needed to forgive myself. Forgive yourself for what? Wilson snarls. For being a coward, for letting us die. Yes, I say quietly. The word hangs in the air like smoke. The pack starts to pace nervously. You can't forgive that, Rodriguez says. What you did was unforgivable. Maybe, I say. But maybe that's not for you to decide. Maybe that's not for me to decide either. I pull Margaret's ring out from under my shirt. It's not burning anymore. It feels cool and calm against my palm. She forgave me, I realize. Even knowing what I did, she forgave me. She didn't know, Kim says quickly. You never told her the truth. She knew, I say. She knew I was carrying something terrible, and she loved me anyway. The pack is backing away now. Their yellow eyes look worried. She chose to love a coward, I continue. If she could forgive me, maybe... No, Morrison says. His voice sounds different now. Scared. You don't get to let go. You don't get to be free. Maybe I do. I think about Wilson, 19 years old with his whole life ahead of him. I think about Kim with his jokes and his gentle hands patching up wounds. I think about Rodriguez, who never got to meet his baby daughter. I'm sorry, I say to them. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry you died while I lived. Sorry doesn't bring us back, Wilson says, but his voice sounds smaller now. No, it doesn't. Nothing can bring you back. But maybe you don't have to stay here either. The forest around us starts to shimmer, like heat waves rising off summer pavement. What do you mean, Kim asks. Maybe you're trapped here because I'm trapped here. Maybe my guilt is keeping you from moving on. That's not how it works, Morrison says, but he doesn't sound sure anymore. Let's find out. I close my eyes and think about forgiveness. Real forgiveness. Not just words, but the deep, bone-level letting go that Margaret tried to teach me. I forgive myself for being scared. I forgive myself for running. I forgive myself for surviving when better men didn't. The howling starts all around us. Not just from my pack, but from all the others hidden in the forest. Hundreds of voices crying out in anger and fear. When I open my eyes, the 12 soldiers look different. Less wolf, more human. The yellow glow is fading from their eyes. Vincent, Morrison says, and for the first time in 10 years, he sounds like my old sergeant. What's happening to us? I think you're remembering who you were before the hunger took over. The forest is changing too. The Korean hills are fading. The bone-white rocks are turning back into normal stone. In the distance, I can see a light that might be sunrise, or it might be something else entirely. But the light doesn't last. The howling gets louder, angrier. Other shapes come rushing through the trees. Soldiers from different wars, all with yellow eyes, all with sharp teeth. Hundreds of them. You can't leave, one of them snarls. It's wearing a World War II uniform, torn and bloody. None of us can leave. This is where cowards belong. He's trying to trick us, says another, this one in Vietnam gear. Trying to escape his punishment. The forest snaps back to its twisted shape. The Korean hills return, sharper and more jagged than before. The bone-white rocks gleam like teeth. My 12 soldiers look confused, caught between human and wolf. Morrison reaches out to me with hands that are half claws. Vincent, I remember now, he says. I remember dying, but I also remember the hunger. It's still there, eating at me. The hunger won't let us go, Wilson says sadly. It's too strong. It's been feeding too long. I feel something heavy settle on my shoulders. The weight of 10 years. The weight of all those nights spent pretending Margaret was still alive. Pretending I had a real job. Pretending I was still human. Then I guess there's only one choice left, I say quietly. Join us, Kim pleads. It doesn't hurt when you stop fighting it. I look at their faces, my old friends, twisted by years of feeding on guilt and shame. They're not evil. They're just hungry. They've been hungry for so long, they forgot what it felt like to be full. Okay, I say. I'll join you. The pack relaxes. The other soldiers in the forest stop howling and start to drift away. You'll help us hunt? Morrison asks. I'll help you hunt, I agree. You'll bring Danny and Tommy here? I nod. I'll bring them here. Morrison smiles and his teeth are sharp again. Good. We'll make you strong, Vincent, stronger than you ever were in life. Just one thing. Say, before I change, before I become like you, I want to understand something. What? This place, this forest. It's not really in Korea, is it? It's not really anywhere. No, Morrison says. It exists wherever guilt lives. In the back of minds, in the dark hours before dawn, in the spaces between sleep and waking. So, when you send me to collect Danny and Tommy, you'll appear to them as their guilt, Kim explains. Maybe as a dead friend, maybe as a voice in their head. maybe as a nightmare that won't end. And they'll follow me here? They won't have a choice, Wilson says. Guilt always comes when it's called. I nod slowly. I understand. The transformation starts immediately. I can feel my teeth getting sharper, my fingers turning into claws. My eyesight gets better, but colors start to fade. The world becomes simpler. Just hunger and prey, guilt and feeding. It doesn't hurt. That's the strangest part. After 10 years of carrying this weight, letting it go almost feels good. But as I change, I hold on to one last thought. One last memory of who I used to be. Margaret's voice from the night she died. Vincent, promise me something. Promise me you'll remember that everyone deserves a chance to be forgiven. Everyone, even you. The pack leads me to the edge of the forest. From here, I can see into the real world. I can see Danny in his trailer drinking alone. I can see Tommy at the hardware store staring at nothing while customers wait for help. Go, Morrison says. Bring them home. I step across the border between the forest and reality. In the real world, I look normal, just a park ranger taking a walk. But inside, I'm something else now, something hungry. I walk toward Danny's trailer, practicing what I'll say, how I'll convince a broken old soldier to follow me into the woods, how I'll feed his guilt until it grows strong enough to trap him, forever. But as I walk, I keep hearing Margaret's voice. Everyone deserves a chance to be forgiven. Even Danny, even Tommy, even the thing I've become. I reach Danny's trailer and knock on the door. When he opens it, I can smell the guilt on him like cheap cologne. His eyes are red from drinking, but they're still human eyes, still hopeful somewhere deep down. You, Danny? I ask. Yeah, who wants to know? I look at this broken man, and I have a choice to make. Feed him to the forest or try something else, something the hungry ghosts would never expect. My name is Vincent, I say carefully, and I think we need to talk about forgiveness. Danny looks confused. What? About the men you lost in Vietnam? About the guilt you've been carrying all these years? His face goes pale. How do you know about that? I smile, and I'm careful to keep my teeth looking normal. Because I lost men too, and I spent 10 years learning something important. What's in that? That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is forgive yourself. Danny stares at me for a long moment. Behind me, I can feel the forest watching. The pack is waiting for me to bring them fresh meat. But maybe there's another way. Maybe I can break this cycle instead of feeding it. Maybe I can save Danny and Tommy instead of damning them. Maybe there's still time to choose differently. The question is, am I brave enough to try? Or will I stay a coward forever? The forest holds its breath, waiting to see what I'll do. And, somewhere in the distance, I swear I can hear Margaret whispering, "Choose love, Vincent, choose love." My name is David Kowalski, and I think I might be losing my mind. It's been 2 years since Tommy died, and I still can't sleep without seeing his face. My little brother was always the brave one, always pushing me to climb higher, go faster, take risks. I was supposed to protect him. I was the older brother. But I failed. Now I'm sitting on my horse Buck in the middle of Yellowstone's Lamar Valley, and nothing feels right. Not the air, not the ground, not even my own heartbeat. I came here to clear my head, maybe find some peace. Instead, everything around me seems angry. The hot springs are acting weird. Every time I breathe in, they shoot steam into the air. When my heart beats fast, they bubble harder. It's like the whole valley is watching me, waiting for something. The thermal pools look like they're keeping time with my guilt, rising and falling like they know what I did wrong. Buck shifts under me, and I pat his neck. He's been my only friend since Tommy died. Good horse, always steady, but even he seems nervous today. His ears keep twitching and he keeps looking around like he sees things I don't. The strangest part is the bison. There's a whole herd of them about 50 yards away, just standing there staring at me. But their faces... God, their faces look wrong. Too human, too familiar. One of them has eyes that remind me of Tommy. That same mischievous look he got before he did something stupid. I shake my head and try to focus. The wind is picking up, making strange sounds as it moves through the valley. Sometimes it almost sounds like voices, like someone calling my name from far away, the same way Tommy called to me that day on the mountain, right before the rope snapped. The sun should feel warm on my face, but it doesn't. Everything feels cold here, like the air itself is made of snow and ice. My hands are shaking, and not from the temperature. It's something else, something deeper, like the cold is coming from inside me. I check my watch, the same broken one I've worn since the accident. The hands are stuck at 2:47, the exact moment Tommy fell. I've tried to fix it 100 times, but it won't move. Sometimes I think time stopped for me that day too. The valley stretches out in front of me, and from up here on Buck, it looks strange. The shape of the land, the way the hills curve and dip, it almost looks like two people lying next to each other. Like two brothers sleeping side by side, the way Tommy and I used to when we were kids and scared of thunderstorms. A sound makes me turn my head. Wolves howling in the distance, but it's not normal howling. It sounds like singing, like two voices joining together in harmony. Tommy and I used to sing like that around the campfire during our climbing trips. He had a good voice, better than mine. Said we should start a band when we got home. We never got the chance. Buck snorts and takes a step backward. I look down and see something that makes my blood freeze. In the soft mud near the water there are footprints, boot prints, like the climbing boots Tommy always wore, but next to them bare footprints. Human feet, walking right alongside the boots, step for step. The tracks lead toward a group of trees, disappearing into shadows that seem too dark for the middle of the day. I want to follow them, but something tells me that would be a very bad idea. Buck seems to agree. He's backing away from the tracks, snorting and shaking his head. That's when I notice the other animals. They're all in pairs. Two elk standing together, but one of them looks wrong, too thin, like I can see right through it. Two bears near the river, one normal, and one that might just be bones held together by shadow. Even the birds are flying in twos, one casting a shadow, and one that might be a shadow itself. Everything in this valley has a partner, everything except me. The wolves howl again, closer this time. The sound wraps around me like cold fingers, and I swear I can hear words in it. My name, Tommy's name, and something else, something that sounds like brother. Buck turns, without me telling him to, heading back toward the main trail. Smart horse. But as we ride away, I can feel something watching us go. Something patient, something that knows we'll be back. Because the truth is, I don't think I can leave. Not really. This valley feels like home in a way that scares me, like it's been waiting for me for 2 years, ever since Tommy died, ever since I let him die. The howling follows us as we ride, getting louder instead of quieter. And somewhere, in that sound, I swear I can hear Tommy laughing. The way he used to when we were kids, and he was about to show me something amazing, something that would change everything forever. That night, I make camp by the river. I should leave this place, but I can't. It's like the valley is holding me here with invisible chains. Buck doesn't like it either. He keeps looking back toward where we saw those footprints, his ears pinned flat against his head. I build a small fire and try to eat, but everything tastes like chalk. The same white climbing chalk Tommy and I used to rub on our hands before every climb. It helped us grip the rocks better, kept our palms dry. Now the taste fills my mouth no matter what I try to swallow. Tommy was 3 years younger than me, but he was always the leader when we climbed. He'd study the rock face for hours, planning every move, every handhold. Come on, Davy. he'd say, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. Trust me, I've got this figured out. I always trusted him. That was my first mistake. We grew up in Colorado, right near the mountains. Our dad taught us to climb when I was 12 and Tommy was 9. Dad said brothers should stick together, especially in dangerous places. You watch out for each other, he told us. Family is all you really have. Tommy took that seriously. Too seriously. He'd push us both to climb harder routes, higher peaks. He wanted us to be the best climbing team in the state, maybe the country. We're stronger together, Davy, he'd say. Nothing can stop the Kowalski brothers. The fire crackles and sparks, float up into the dark sky. For a second, they look like stars. Like the stars Tommy and I used to count during our camping trips. He always said he could see different pictures in them than other people could. Better pictures. Buck suddenly lifts his head, looking toward the trees. His whole body goes stiff. I follow his gaze, but don't see anything, just shadows and darkness. But there's a smell in the air now. Leather and metal, the exact smell of our climbing gear. I close my eyes and try not to remember, but it's too late. The memories come flooding back. It was supposed to be an easy climb, Mount of the Holy Cross, a peak we'd done before. But there was more snow than usual, and the weather was changing fast. I told Tommy we should turn back, but he laughed it off. Don't be such a worrywart, Davy. We've got this. The accident happened so fast. 1 minute we were moving up the rock face, roped together like always. The next minute the anchor point broke loose. A chunk of ice and rock the size of a car came tumbling down. Tommy was below me, and he couldn't get out of the way in time. I tried to catch him, God, I tried so hard. But the rope snapped, and he fell into the white nothing below. The last thing I heard was him calling my name, getting fainter and fainter, until the wind swallowed his voice completely. They found his body 3 days later. I spent those 3 days sitting by the rescue radio, not eating, not sleeping, just waiting. When they told me he was gone, something inside me broke too, something that's never healed. A twig snaps in the darkness beyond my fire. Buck whickers nervously. I grab a flashlight and shine it toward the sound, but the beam seems weak, like the darkness is eating the light. Hello? I call out. My voice sounds small and scared. No answer. But now I can hear something else. Footsteps, slow, careful footsteps, like someone trying not to be heard. They're coming from 2 different directions, circling my camp. I stand, up my heart pounding. Who's there? The footsteps stop. Everything goes quiet except for the crackling of my fire and the sound of my own breathing. Even Buck has gone completely still. Then I hear it, singing, 2 voices harmonizing, just like the wolves earlier. But now I can make out the words. It's an old song Tommy and I used to sing, one our mom taught us when we were little kids. Michael, row the boat ashore, hallelujah. My hands start shaking. Nobody else knew that song. Nobody else sang it. The way we did, with Tommy taking the high part and me doing the low harmony. The singing gets closer. I can see shapes moving just outside the circle of firelight. 2 figures walking together, one tall, one shorter. Brothers. Tommy, I whisper. The singing stops. The shapes disappear back into the darkness. But something new appears in the light of my fire, my old climbing backpack, the one I haven't seen since the accident. It's sitting right next to my sleeping bag, like someone just set it down. With trembling hands, I unzip it. Inside is all of Tommy's gear, his harness still stained with blood, his climbing shoes caked with mountain dirt, his helmet cracked down the middle where the rock hit him. At the bottom of the pack, I find his journal, the one he always wrote in after every climb. I flip to the last entry, dated the day he died. In his messy handwriting it says, Davy thinks I don't know he blames himself. But it wasn't his fault. It was mine. I pushed too hard, too fast. I wanted us to be legends. Instead, I got us both killed. My blood turns to ice water, both killed. But I'm still alive. I'm sitting here reading this, aren't I? The fire suddenly goes out, plunging me into complete darkness. And in that darkness, I hear Tommy's voice, clear as day. "Davy, where are you, brother? I've been looking for you for so long." I don't sleep that night. How can I? Every time I close my eyes, I see Tommy standing just outside the dying fire, waiting for me to follow him into the darkness. When morning comes, the sun looks wrong, too pale, like it's shining through thick ice. I pack up quickly, my hands still shaking from what happened. Buck seems jumpy too. He keeps trying to head back toward the main trail, but something pulls me deeper into the valley instead. The footprints are everywhere now, not just near my camp, but all along the path. Climbing boots walking next to bare feet, like two people taking a morning stroll. Sometimes the tracks split apart, circling trees or rocks, then come back together, always together. I follow them without really meaning to. Buck doesn't fight me anymore. It's like he knows we don't have a choice. The tracks lead to a place I've never seen before, even though I've been in this valley dozens of times. There's a small clearing surrounded by tall trees, and every single tree has marks carved into the bark. Not random scratches, climbing routes. Someone has turned each tree into a map of handholds and footholds, going up and up until they disappear into the branches. I get off Buck and walk closer. The carvings are fresh, still bleeding sap, but they show climbing routes I recognize. Routes Tommy and I did together, Mount Elbert, Long's Peak, the Flatirons. All of our favorite places, carved into trees that shouldn't have these marks. At the base of the biggest tree, someone has left more gear. My old climbing rope, the one that snapped during Tommy's fall. It's been repaired with knots that look like Tommy's work. He always tied knots better than me, neater and stronger. I pick up the rope, and it feels warm in my hands, like it's been sitting in the sun, even though we're in the shade. The warmth spreads up my arms, and for a moment, I feel like Tommy is right here with me, getting ready for another climb. "Ready, Davy?" I can almost hear him say. "This one's going to be fun." Buck snorts behind me. When I turn around, he's not where I left him. He's standing on his hind legs against one of the carved trees, his front hooves finding the handholds like they're perfect for his feet. For a second, it looks like he's actually climbing. Horses can't climb trees, I know that, but Buck is doing it anyway, moving up the trunk like it's the most natural thing in the world. His eyes look different too, more human, more like Tommy's eyes when he got excited about a new challenge. "Buck, get down!" I call. He drops back to all fours and looks at me like nothing happened, but I can see the bark scraped off the tree where his hooves were, 30 feet up from the ground. The wind starts picking up again, making the trees sway and creak, but the sound isn't random. It's got a rhythm to it, like music, like the songs Tommy and I used to sing. The leaves rustle in harmony, high notes and low notes weaving together. I close my eyes and listen. It really does sound like singing, and underneath the tree music I can hear something else. Footsteps, lots of them, coming from all directions. When I open my eyes, the clearing isn't empty anymore. There are people standing between the trees. At least they look like people from far away, but something's wrong with them. They're too tall, too thin, and they're all moving together like dancers following the same steps. I count them. 6 figures, standing, perfectly still, watching me. Their faces are hard to see in the shadows, but I think I recognize some of them. Mike, who taught Tommy and me how to belay properly. Sarah, who climbed with us in Utah that one summer. Jim, who was with us on Mount Washington when the weather turned bad. All climbers, all people who died in the mountains over the years. "Guys," I call out, "is that really you?" They don't answer, but they start moving closer, walking in perfect step with each other. Their movements are too smooth, too coordinated, like they're not quite human anymore. Buck moves closer to me, pressing against my leg. He's trembling, but he's not trying to run. It's like he knows running won't help. The figures stop, just at the edge of the clearing. Now I can see their faces clearly, and my heart almost stops. They look exactly like they did when they were alive, but their eyes are different. Hungry. Waiting. One of them steps forward. It's Mike, and he's wearing the same climbing gear he had on the day he fell from Devil's Tower. Even the bloodstains are the same. "David," he says, and his voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. "We've been waiting for you." "Waiting for what?" I manage to ask. "For you to understand," says Sarah, stepping up beside Mike. "You're one of us now. You have been for 2 years." "I don't know what you're talking about." Jim laughs, but it's not a happy sound. "The rope didn't just break, David. You fell, too. You fell with Tommy. You just haven't figured it out yet." The world starts spinning around me. I reach for Buck to steady myself, but when I touch him, my hand goes right through him like he's made of smoke. "No," I whisper, "that's not true. I'm alive. I'm standing right here." "Are you?" asks Mike. "When's the last time you ate something and tasted it? When's the last time you felt warm? When's the last time someone talked to you besides us?" Try to remember. The food at my camp tasted like chalk. The sun felt cold on my skin. The park rangers I passed on the trail looked right through me like I wasn't there. "The guilt brought you back," Sarah explains gently. "The guilt over Tommy's death. It was so strong it wouldn't let you go. So you've been wandering, looking for him, not knowing you died right beside him." "But I save people," I protest. "I've been doing mountain rescues for 2 years. I've helped people." "Have you?" Jim asks. "Or have you been leading them to us?" The truth hits me like a falling rock. Every person I tried to save in the mountains, every rescue mission that went wrong, they all ended up here, in this valley, joining this group of the lost and dead. I look around at the 6 figures, and now I can see what they really are. Not quite human anymore. Something else. Something hungry. "Tommy's waiting for you," Mike says. "He's been waiting so patiently, but he's getting tired of being alone." Behind me, Buck whickers softly. When I turn to look at him, he's changing, growing taller. His face becoming more human, his eyes becoming Tommy's eyes. "Hello, Davy," he says in Tommy's voice. "I've missed you so much." The world goes black, and the last thing I hear is howling. Not wolves this time. Something much bigger. Something that's been waiting in the darkness for a very long time. When I wake up, I'm not in the clearing anymore. I'm lying on cold stone, staring up at a sky that doesn't look right. The stars are too bright, too close, like someone hung Christmas lights just above my head. I sit up slowly. My whole body aches like I've been climbing for days without rest. Around me, the valley has changed. Everything looks bigger, taller. The trees stretch up so high I can't see their tops. The mountains in the distance look like they're leaning in, watching me. "You're awake," says a voice I know better than my own. I turn around and there he is. Tommy, but not the Tommy I remember. This Tommy is huge, maybe 8 feet tall, with arms and legs like tree trunks. His face is still my little brother's face, but his eyes glow yellow in the darkness. When he smiles, I can see teeth that are too sharp, too long. "Tommy!" My voice comes out as a whisper. "Hey, Davy!" He sits down next to me, and the ground shakes a little under his weight. "I've been waiting for you to see me, really see me." I want to run, but my legs won't move. "What happened to you?" "Same thing that happened to you. Same thing that happens to everyone who comes here." He points to the other figures standing around us. Mike, Sarah, Jim, and 3 others I don't recognize. They all look like Tommy now. Too tall, too strong, with eyes that glow like animal eyes. "We died, Davy, but we didn't stay dead. Not completely." "I don't understand." Tommy's smile gets wider. "This place, this valley, it's special. It feeds on guilt, on the kind of love that turns into blame. Brothers who let brothers die. Friends who don't save friends. All that guilt and pain, it creates something new." He stands up and walks to the center of our circle. When he moves, he doesn't walk like a person anymore. He moves like a wolf, smooth and quiet and dangerous. There's something old here, Davy. Something that was here long before people came to these mountains. It's hungry, and it's been waiting. When we died, when we came here carrying all that guilt, it gave us a choice. What choice? Stay dead or become something else. Something stronger, something that could help it feed. I look around at the others. They're all watching me with those glowing eyes, waiting to see what I'll do. Feed on what? On more guilt. More brothers, more friends who blame themselves. Tommy kneels down in front of me. Up close, I can see that his skin isn't quite human anymore. It's covered in fine hair like fur. Every month, we find someone new. Someone carrying the kind of pain we used to carry. We bring them here and they join us. You kill people. No, Davy, we save them, just like we were saved. He reaches out and touches my face with fingers that are too long, too strong. All those years of guilt, all that pain, it's gone now. I don't hurt anymore, and neither will you. I try to pull away from his touch, but I can't move. The people I tried to rescue, the ones who died anyway, you made that happen. We helped you bring them home. They're all here now. All part of the family. No more pain, no more guilt, just belonging. The truth hits me like a punch to the stomach. For 2 years I thought I was helping people. Instead, I was leading them to this place, to this thing that feeds on human suffering. Buck, I whisper. Tommy nods toward the trees. He's here too. He was always part of this, Davy. From the day you got him, he was mine. My way of watching over you, keeping you safe until you were ready. A shape moves out of the shadows. It used to be Buck, but now it's something else. Still horse-like, but walking on 2 legs like a person. Its face is a mix of horse and human, with Tommy's eyes staring out at me. He's been taking care of you, Tommy says, making sure you ended up here when the time was right. I try to stand up, but my legs are too weak. This is insane. You're all insane. Are we? Tommy tilts his head like he used to when he was thinking. Look around, Davy. Look at this place. We've made it perfect. Every tree is a climbing route. Every rock face is a challenge. We can climb forever here, just like we always wanted. He's right. As I look around, I can see that the entire valley has been turned into one massive climbing course. Handholds carved into every surface, ropes hanging from impossible heights, paths leading up and up into the glowing sky. We're together again, Tommy says softly. All of us, the whole gang. No one gets left behind anymore. But what about everyone else? What about the people you bring here? They get to be part of something bigger, something that lasts forever. He stands up and spreads his arms wide. This is our pack now, Davy, our family, and you're going to help us make it bigger. The other figures start moving closer, forming a tight circle around me. I can feel their hunger, their need. They want me to say yes. They want me to become like them. I can't, I whisper. Tommy's face changes. For just a second he looks sad, like the little brother I remember, the one who used to be scared of thunderstorms. You don't have a choice, Davy. You stopped having a choice the day you let me fall. The truth of it settles over me like a heavy blanket. He's right. I've been dead for 2 years, wandering around in guilt and pain, too stubborn to accept what happened, too scared to face the truth. Will it hurt? I ask. Not anymore, Tommy says. Nothing will ever hurt again. The pack closes in around me, and I can feel myself changing. My bones stretching, my muscles growing stronger, my teeth getting sharper, the guilt and pain that have lived inside me for 2 years finally lifting away. But as the change takes hold, I realize something else, something Tommy didn't tell me. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning, because now that I'm like them, now that I'm part of the pack, I can feel it too. The hunger, the need to find more brothers, more friends, more people carrying guilt and pain. And I know exactly where to find them. In the darkness above us, something vast and ancient stirs, something that has been waiting for this moment. The thing that made us all into monsters smiles with a mouth full of stars. The hunt is about to begin. The change doesn't hurt like I thought it would. It feels like coming home after being lost for a very long time. My body grows stronger, taller. My senses get sharper. I can smell things from miles away, hear heartbeats of animals in the distance. Most importantly, I can feel Tommy beside me, really beside me, for the first time in 2 years. "How do you feel?" he asks. I flex my new hands, longer now, with claws instead of fingernails. Different, but good different. "That's because you're finally where you belong." Tommy puts his arm around my shoulders, and I don't have to look up at him anymore. We're the same height now, both of us changed, into something new. We're brothers again, Davy, really brothers. I look around at the others. Mike gives me a nod of welcome. Sarah smiles with too many teeth. Jim pats my back with a hand that could crush rocks. They all feel like family now, like we've known each other forever. "What happens now?" I ask. "Now we do what we were made for," Tommy says. "We hunt." He walks to the edge of our circle and points toward the mountains beyond the valley. Out there are people like we used to be. People carrying guilt so heavy it's killing them. Brothers who blame themselves for sisters who died. Fathers who couldn't save their sons. Friends who let friends fall. I can feel it now, that hunger Tommy talked about. Not for food, but for something else. For the pain that radiates from guilty hearts. It calls to us like a dinner bell. "They need us," Sarah says softly. "They need what we can give them." "Which is what?" "An end to the pain," Mike explains. "A way to stop hurting, just like Tommy gave you." I think about the 2 years I spent wandering, carrying Tommy's death like a stone in my chest. The way every breath hurt, every morning was a struggle. How I could never really taste food or feel warm or sleep without nightmares. All of that is gone now. The guilt has been transformed into something else, something useful, something that makes me part of a family again. "There's a man in Colorado," Tommy says, his eyes going distant like he's seeing something far away. "His name is Marcus. He took his little brother camping last month. The tent caught fire while he was getting water from the stream. He's been driving around the mountains ever since, looking for a place to make the pain stop." I can see Marcus in my mind now, like watching a movie. A man in his 30s, unshaven, with red eyes from crying. He's sitting in his truck at a scenic overlook, staring at the rocks below. "He needs us," I say, and I'm surprised by how much I mean it. "Yes," Tommy smiles, "and there are others, so many others. We'll never run out of work to do." Buck, or the thing that used to be Buck, comes over to us. He's fully changed now, walking on 2 legs, but he still moves like a loyal horse, like he's still mine, even though we're both something else now. "The old rules don't apply anymore," Tommy explains as we start walking. "We can go anywhere, do anything, cross any distance in a single night, find anyone who carries the kind of pain we understand." As we walk, the valley changes around us. The trees grow taller, the mountains move closer, the stars above us pulse like heartbeats. This place, whatever it really is, responds to our will now. "What about the thing that made us?" I ask. "The thing you said was old and hungry." Tommy's smile gets wider. It's happy. We're feeding it well. Every person we help, every soul we bring home, makes it stronger, makes all of us stronger. I can feel it now, that vast presence watching us from somewhere above the stars. It doesn't feel evil exactly, more like grateful. Like a parent proud of children who are finally doing what they were meant to do. We reach the edge of the valley, where the normal world begins. I can see car headlights on distant roads, lights from houses in far-off towns, People living their normal lives, not knowing what waits for them in the dark places of the world. "Ready for your first hunt, Davy?" Tommy asks. I think about Marcus, alone with his guilt. I think about all the others like him, carrying pain they don't know how to bear. People who need what we can give them. "Ready," I say. We start running, all of us together, the pack, my new family. Our feet barely touch the ground as we race toward the highway, toward Marcus and his truck and his broken heart. Behind us, the valley fades into mist and shadow, but it's still there, waiting for us to come back, waiting for us to bring new friends home. As we run, I hear Tommy start to sing, the same song we used to sing as kids, but different now, deeper, hungrier. The others join in, their voices blending with ours in perfect harmony. "Michael, row the boat ashore, hallelujah!" But we're not rowing towards shore anymore. We're rowing away from it, into deeper waters where the lost and guilty wait for rescue. The song carries across the night air, and I know that somewhere, out there, Marcus hears it. His broken heart recognizes the sound of brothers calling to brothers. He'll follow the music, just like I did, just like they all do. By morning, he'll be family, and after Marcus, there will be others. Always others. Because guilt is everywhere, and family bonds run deeper than death. We'll find them all, one by one. The brothers who blame themselves, the sisters who carry shame, the friends who couldn't save friends. We'll bring them home to the valley that exists between worlds, where pain transforms into purpose and the guilty become the hunters. The pack grows stronger with each new member. And somewhere in the darkness above the stars, something ancient and vast grows stronger too. But that's not important right now. What's important is Tommy running beside me, his laughter mixing with the wind. What's important is that we're together again, forever this time. Brothers in life, brothers in death, brothers in the hunt that never ends. The road stretches out before us, leading to Marcus and his truck and his guilt-heavy heart, leading to the next addition to our family. We run faster, and the night welcomes us with open arms. After all, we have work to do.